Chapter 1274. Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. In a first-year classroom of an advanced class, Wu Yin sighed in his heart under the heavy gazes of the people who were about to become his classmates. He introduced himself expressionlessly. Luoong? Randall, I will be learning with everyone in this classroom. Please give me your guidance. The opening words of his self-introduction gently fell, but it did not attract any applause from anyone. Instead, it caused the entire place to descend into an absurd, heavy feeling. Numerous gazes that carried a strong sense of scrutiny and numerous whispers resounded in this space. That's him, right? Yes. Yes. Rumor has it that the cheating student who didn't go through the basic course and got in through the back door. Luoong? I've never heard of that name before. He said he's called Luoong? Randall. That Randall. Could it be the Randall family? Isn't that President Lebecca's family? Listening to the whispers coming from the trapezoidal-shaped audience seats and the content of the whispers, even though he already expected this, he still didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He sighed again and again. The Ansari Dragon Riding Academy was the dragon-raising academy of the Night Kingdom of Loriaman. It specialized in cultivating dragon cultivators. Its threshold was high, its reputation was great, and its status was something that even the capital of the Night Kingdom did not have. In order to study in such a prestigious academy, apart from being a dragon cultivator, one had to have a reasonable identity. Otherwise, who would know whether or not the newcomer had bad intentions? However, Wu Yin did not have any identity in this world. He had also lost his memory when he explained to Lebecca. Under such circumstances, Lebecca gave Wu Yin a reasonable identity. Exclusive to Lebecca, Randall's guard. Therefore, Wu Yin was not only given the name Luoong by Lebecca, but also the surname of Lebecca's family. It was as if he was taken in or married into the family. This wasn't a big deal. After all, there are many nobles in this world. It was not strange for a noble disciple to have a guard. It was not enough for Wu Yin to attract so much attention. Unfortunately, the person he was guarding was not someone else. It was the student council president who was very popular. In addition to the rumors of him getting in through the back door, Wu Yin became the most eye-catching existence on the first day of the new semester. Of course, this attention was more focused on the bad than the good. Thinking about this, Wu Yin could not help but reach out and touch the star carving on the back of his right hand. If it was not for this fake star carving, Wu Yin would be even more eye-catching. His explanation to Lebecca was that the star carving was just a smokescreen. However, it wasn't completely useless. Wu Yin had to think long and hard before engraving this seal on the star. Yes, it was a seal. It sealed all the power in Wu Yin's body. In other words, Wu Yin had no mana, no superpowers. He could not even open the gate of Babylon. These superpowers were all sealed into the star carving on Wu Yin's hand. It was not that Wu Yin wanted to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger, but he realized that if he did not seal his power, the star essence that had been circling around him since he woke up would continue to follow him. The star essence that should only exist in the body of a living being, invisible to the naked eye, constantly circled around him. Was that not eye-catching enough? According to the system's explanation, this is a side effect of Wu Yin surviving the explosion of the star goblins. It didn't affect him in any way, but the aura he exuded made it easy for him to attract the star goblins, turning him into a star goblins magnet, attracting the star goblins around him and causing them to move around him in a way that defies common sense. If Wu Yin sealed his powers and turned into a normal person, the star essence's aura would disappear and disappear by itself. Although star essences could not be seen with the naked eye, once the amount of star essences reached a certain level, dragon cultivators with star carvings could be seen with the naked eye. Lebecca was a living example. Yesterday, the star essences went berserk. Today, there was a person surrounded by star essences that defied common sense. Anyone would think that there was something wrong with Wu Yin. Helpless, Wu Yin could only carve a seal to seal the power in his body. In any case, he was the one who set the seal. He could remove it whenever he wanted. It would not affect him. Moreover, even without mana or superpowers, Wu Yin still had the peerless skill of infinite martial refinement and the physical strength of the true ancestor body. The combination of the two would allow Wu Yin to reach level 70 rank 8. This had already surpassed the strength of ordinary dragons, and even the majority of holy dragons. Even Lebecca was only at the 8th step after equipping the holy knight armor, and the holy dragon she rode was only slightly stronger than Lebecca herself. With his current strength, Wu Yin could deal with many situations and save himself a lot of trouble. He could focus on his own dungeon missions. Everyone, please be quiet. Seeing that the whispers in the classroom were becoming more and more intense, the teacher hurriedly spoke out to stop them. The new semester has begun. Everyone who has finished the basic course will receive 3 years of advanced courses. I hope that everyone can help each other and improve together. One day, you will become an outstanding dragon knight. The sensei tilted his head and looked at Wu Yin. Student Lun, find an empty seat and sit down. Let's start the class. Wu Yin regained his senses and nodded. Just as he was about to walk up the stairs to his seat, he felt a sharp glare directed at him. His footsteps paused for a moment before he put his foot down without anyone noticing. As he walked to his seat, he vaguely looked at the source of the gaze. The next moment, Wu Yin met a pair of blue eyes and saw the person's full appearance. It was a beautiful girl whose looks were not inferior to Lebecca's. Her slender golden hair shone with a dazzling brilliance under the beret. Her fair skin and her blue eyes that were like an eternally frozen glacier reflected a seductive luster, as if that was the only color left in the world. However, not only did the owner of those eyes have a cold expression, the gaze she looked at Wu Yin with was filled with all sorts of indescribable emotions. It seemed like contempt, indifference, indignation, anger. To be honest, Wu Yin could not remember how he offended her to attract such a gaze. Although there was no hostility in that gaze, it was definitely not friendly either. It was as if she did not agree with him. No, she did not agree with him. Lightly frowning, he retracted his gaze and moved to the last row of seats. He sat at the edge of the corner. Only then did the blonde girl retract her gaze and look away from him. This also confirmed his suspicions that the girl didn't really have a grudge against him. Then, what did that sharp gaze mean? Wu Yin did not understand. Hello. At this moment, a male voice sounded from the side, waking Wu Yin from his thoughts. Turning his head to look beside him, he found out that his desk mate is a pretty boy with blonde hair. Blinking, Wu Yin looked around. When he made sure there was no one else around, he pointed at his nose and asked in confusion, "Are you talking to me?" "Other than you, there is no one else here." The handsome boy laughed heartily. "My name is Raymond." "Raymond? Cakerland." "Oh." Wu Yin nodded at the boy who called himself Raymond with a slightly surprised expression. "Roan." "Roan?" "Randall." "Hello." "Roan." Raymond called Wu Yin by his name in this world. He lowered his voice and he asked Wu Yin in a sneaky manner, "That Randall, is he really the same Randall that President Lebecca mentioned?" Raymond's words sounded a bit strange, but Wu Yin understood what he meant. He couldn't help but bitterly smile. "Yes, I am President Lebecca's bodyguard." "President Lebecca's bodyguard?" Raymond widened his eyes. Just when Wu Yin thought he was going to show a surprised expression, Raymond's face turned into a pig's face that ruined his image. To be President Lebecca's bodyguard. What an enviable fellow. Wu Yin thought Wu Yin was right. Chapter 1275. Ansari's Dragon Riding Academy didn't have a long teaching time. Although basic knowledge was equally important, and the teachers of Ansari's Dragon Riding Academy didn't look down on basic knowledge courses, people would still subconsciously focus on actual combat compared to the knowledge in books. After all, dragon cultivators didn't need to be knowledgeable. Every dragon cultivator wanted to become a dragon knight, or even a Saint Sky Dragon Knight with a high status, so that they could possess great power in the future. Every dragon cultivator studied in the Ansari Academy, hoping to become a dragon knight or even a Saint Sky Dragon Knight with a high status. By that time, even if they didn't want to, they would still have a good status and power, becoming one of the top existences in Loriaman's knighthood. Therefore, the new semester had just begun, so there wasn't much time to sit in the classroom and listen to the class. When the bell rang, The teacher left this sentence. The next class is about the training of dragon riding combat. After 30 minutes, please gather at the training ground. Above, to put it bluntly, the so-called dragon riding combat technique was actually the technique of riding a dragon in battle. The wisdom of a dragon was actually not lower than that of a human. Or rather, the dragon could create all kinds of Saint Knight armors. Its wisdom was even higher than most people. However, dragons were too straightforward and didn't know how to turn. Therefore, when riding a dragon, it was usually the dragon cultivator who gave the order to fight, maximizing the dragon's combat power. For example, two dragons of equal strength, because of their different masters, could suppress the other dragon. It wasn't rare. Therefore, actual combat training similar to dragon riding combat had always been the most important in Ansari's Dragon Riding Academy. After the lesson in the classroom was over, the students began to tidy up their books. They gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, preparing to head to the changing room to change into their dragon riding attire. Then, they would go to the training ground to practice dragon riding combat. Wu Yin was also quite interested in the battles between dragons in this world, so he also tidied up his books and casually threw them on the table, ready to ask someone for directions. Going to the training ground. But before Wu Yin stood up, a familiar voice called out to him. Roland. He saw Raymond, who had disappeared after class, dragging a young man with short brown hair towards him. He immediately pushed the young man in front of him and flicked his hair. Without giving Wu Yin a chance to react, he quickly introduced his companions to him. He's my friend. We used to go to the same basic class and dorm. Hello. The young man did not seem to be here voluntarily. There was an awkward expression on his face, but he still nodded at Wu Yin and introduced himself. My name is Yashur. Yashur? Blake. Hello. Wu Yin was about to nod his head when he saw his new desk mate introducing him to a new friend. His pupils suddenly constricted, and his gaze quickly swept over the self-proclaimed secondary cultivator. Blake's left hand was on the teenager's left hand. The hand that came into view was very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. If there was anything special about it, it would be that Wu Yin could faintly see that there seemed to be a bandage wrapped around the wrist. However, it was an ordinary hand, but Wu Yin sensed something unusual from it. No, to be more precise, it was the blood in his body that sensed something unusual. It was the blood of a true ancestor. It was slightly restless. It was just like when he first saw the ancient city of the fourth true ancestor and the black light that could turn people into monsters, the agitation that came from his bloodline and life form. However, compared to the ancient city and the strange black light that was also a true ancestor, this restlessness was undoubtedly a little smaller. On the other hand, Yashur frowned when he saw Wu Yin looking at his left hand without saying a word. Does this newcomer know about my star carving too? Yashur involuntarily covered his left hand with his right hand, covering it behind his back. Wu Yin narrowed his eyes when he saw this. Something's wrong. He looked at Yashur again with a smile. Hello, I'm Roland. Randall. I know. Perhaps due to Wu Yan's actions, Yashur's reply wasn't friendly. You introduced yourself on the podium earlier. As soon as he said that, the entire place fell into an awkward silence. Ah! Raymond jumped out like a clown, trying to change the topic to Wu Yan. Speaking of which, it's strange. It's the beginning of a new semester. Why do you have to introduce yourself on the podium? The teacher said the class has already been filled. Since I joined later, it's best for me to introduce myself on the podium. Wu Yan explained. Besides, since I didn't attend the basic classes, I'm not familiar with the new advanced classes. It's good for me to introduce myself. That's true. Raymond nodded and looked at Wu Yan curiously. Speaking of which, how did you get in without attending the basic classes? I don't believe it's possible to get in through the back door. There must be a reason for the academy to agree. Yasho also looked at Wu Yan. It seems like he has the same question as Wu Yan. Well, how should I put this? Wu Yan scratched his cheeks. He didn't know how to explain this to her. Roland. While Wu Yan was at his wit's end, a familiar voice came from the door. Compared to Raymond, this voice was much sweeter. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound. Lebecca walked into the classroom with her fiery red hair. She stood close to the door, and she smiled sweetly at Wu Yan. Looking at that breathtakingly beautiful smile, everyone in the classroom, regardless of whether it was a boy or a girl, was attracted by that overwhelming sense of presence, and there was complete silence. Lebecca. Wu Yan looked at her in surprise. Roland. Lebecca waved her hand. Come out. I have something to say to you. Instantly, all the students in the classroom looked at Wu Yan. Their eyes were filled with all sorts of emotions. Among them, the most common one is envy. Ugh. Wu Yan bitterly smiled as he stood up. He told Raymond and Yashu about it. Sorry, I have to leave for a moment. Yashu, Raymond, and the rest of the class were stunned. Wu Yan ran to the door and grabbed Lebecca's hand. He ignored her shocked expression and slipped out of the room. He held President Lebecca's hand. All of the students present maintained a dull expression on their faces, as if they were broken puppets. Their mouths open and closed, unable to react. Among them, Raymond even knelt on the ground in a dispirited posture, groaning out loud. Newbies, I hate them the most. Lebecca, you're making me wonder if you're doing this on purpose. Wu Yan let go of Lebecca's hand when they arrived at a deserted corridor. He crossed his arms and looked at her in annoyance. It's not like you don't know how popular you are. Why did you come to the classroom to call me? Do you want me to be drowned by a bunch of dragon cultivators? Lebecca stood in front of Wu Yan and stared blankly at her hand that was held by Wu Yan. She looked as if her soul had left her body. She didn't hear what Wu Yan said. Wu Yan raised an eyebrow. Say, Lebecca, did you hear what I said? Ah. Lebecca cried out as if she was frightened. She then saw Wu Yan's shocked expression. A blush of embarrassment appeared on Lebecca's face. She coughed, her expression unnatural. What did you say? If the students in the Ansari Academy who were familiar with Lebecca were to see the gentle, virtuous, noble, and approachable student council president in such a state, their jaws would probably drop off from shock. Of course, Wu Yan, who wasn't familiar with Lebecca, didn't notice anything. He sighed helplessly and waved his hand disinterestedly. Forget it. That's not important. What's important is that you came to me personally. Do you have something important to say? That's right. Lebecca finally remembered why she came to see Wu Yan. She immediately became serious. I came to see you this time mainly to tell you two things. Chapter 1276. Two things? Wu Yan was taken aback, his face filled with innocence. So there really is something important? Upon hearing this, Lebecca's serious expression collapsed, and she also became annoyed. Do you think I'm making fun of you? Ah! Wu Yan chuckled, and he mumbled to himself. Am I wrong? You. Lebecca was annoyed at first, but she soon smiled naturally. However, Wu Yan felt a sense of danger from that smile. Am I that kind of person in your heart? Seeing Lebecca's smile that contained a dangerous aura, Wu Yan couldn't help but turn his head away. He inwardly muttered, black-bellied. All right, I won't joke with you anymore. Let's get down to business. Lebecca smiled bitterly and followed Wu Yan's example. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. However, when she did this, it only served to accentuate her huge boobs. Wu Yan almost lost his composure when he saw this. On the other hand, Lebecca, who didn't realize how seductive her actions were, made such a shocking declaration. First, I plan to let you join the student council. Huh? Wu Yan was almost thrown off his feet by this sudden decision. He had a surprised look on his face. No way. Why not? Compared to Wu Yan's stunned expression, Lebecca looked very calm. Lebecca looked very natural. Since I'm the president of the student council, then you, my bodyguard, will have to join the council as well. Ah! Wu Yan shrugged helplessly. He almost forgot about this. Well, I don't mind, as long as you're not afraid of being affected. Rumors of Wu Yan getting in through the back door had spread throughout the academy. It made Wu Yan the focus of the entire Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. Under such circumstances, a student who got in through the back door could still be accepted into the student council. There would be a lot of controversy. It might even affect the image of the student council in the academy and Lebecca's image. After all, the perfect president of the student council actually got her bodyguard in through the back door and was even accepted into the student council. People would more or less speculate about it. You don't have to worry about that. She seemed to know what Wu Yin meant. Rebecca nodded nonchalantly. Rumors are just rumors in the end. As long as you show the strength you should have. No one will dare to gossip then. That's why I want to ask you, where did you get the confidence that my strength will be recognized by everyone? Wu Yin rolled his eyes. You've never seen my strength. You've never even seen my fall before. Could it be that my strength is not ordinary, just because there are some unusual phenomena around me? Well, if I have to say, it's just intuition. Rebecca smiled faintly and gave an answer that didn't match her shrewd appearance. Intuition. Wu Yin rubbed his forehead like he had a headache and sighed. Women, without me, you'd be sleeping on the streets right now. Rebecca glanced at Wu Yin. Besides, we'll soon know if you're strong or not. Wu Yin flinched when he heard this. Why? That's the second thing I want to talk about. Rebecca sighed and looked straight at Wu Yin. Next, your class should be the actual combat of dragon riding combat technique, right? Is there a problem? A little. Rebecca frowned. It's because when I first proposed for you to enter the academy, I relied on the fact that you're a dragon knight to gain their approval. However, the teachers in the academy don't seem to believe it at all. Therefore, you may encounter some trouble in the dragon riding combat skill combat later. Trouble? Wu Yin rubbed the bridge of his nose, and he shrugged. In other words, in order to test if I am a real dragon rider, there will be people who want to duel me in the dragon riding combat technique class later. You can't really call it a fight. Rebecca corrected him. However, the instructor will definitely let you show off your skills. By then, as soon as you summon your fall, they will know whether or not you are a real dragon knight. In order to obtain the title of dragon knight, a dragon cultivator had to let his fall grow into a holy dragon. In other words, if fall was a holy dragon, its master would be a dragon knight. At this point, Rebecca looked at Wu Yin in confusion. Speaking of which, where is your fall exactly? Aren't you going to summon it to the dragon house? The Ansari Dragon Riding Academy had a dragon house dedicated to taking care of students like Fall, and the conditions were excellent. Therefore, even if Fall grew into a holy dragon and could be summoned at any time through the star carving, many people would choose to leave their Fall in the dragon house. At the very least, 4 of the 5 holy dragons in the academy were like that. Rebecca was no exception. Of course, Rebecca didn't know that Wu Yan's dragon could be raised directly in his body and didn't need to be fed or taken care of. Wu Yan wouldn't tell her about such a bizarre thing, so he gave her a half-hearted smile. Girls who are too curious will get themselves into trouble. Oh, is that so? Rebecca raised an eyebrow and said provocatively, Then, I'm looking forward to it. In one of the training grounds of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, the first-year students of the advanced class who were preparing for the dragon riding combat course pulled the reins of their fall and stood in 2 rows on the field. At this moment, the group of students had all changed into dragon riding outfits that were similar to battle suits. They looked valiant and formidable. The girls added safety pants under their skirts, and the boys also put on a black coat that looked like a windbreaker. Just on the surface, the boys' dragon riding outfits were countless times more handsome than the uniforms. At the front of the 2 rows of rows, the instructor in charge of the dragon riding combat technique stood at the head of the row, sweeping his fierce gaze across the entire field. First of all, I must tell everyone that the dragon riding combat technique, without using any weapons, is the foundation of all dragon riding skills. If you train with a playful attitude, you will definitely pay a price when you learn higher-level dragon riding skills in the future. Therefore, in the upcoming dragon riding combat technique practical course, I hope that everyone will be cautious and follow my instructions seriously. Wu Yin, Yashur, and Raymond stood side by side on the other side of the row of humans and dragons. They listened to the instructor's words and chatted softly. Rune, why didn't you bring your fall here? Raymond held the reins of his fall, Brigid, and looked at the silent Wu Yin in surprise. It's fine if Yashur doesn't have a fall, but you don't have one either? Yashur doesn't have a fall. Wu Yin didn't answer Raymond's question. Instead, he looked at the gloomy Yashur in confusion. Yashur, you don't have a fall? How can I not have one? Yashur retorted without hesitation, and his voice weakened. It's just that it's not born yet. It's not born yet. Wu Yin didn't feel relieved after hearing Yasha's explanation. Instead, he looked even more confused. Isn't part of the dragon nurturer usually born in the first year of the basic course? Who am I supposed to ask? Yashur pursed his lips in annoyance. Raymond smiled bitterly. Roland, Yashur is an exception. His fall has never been born. It's already one of the big events among the 7 unbelievable events in the Academy. Everyone wants to know the reason. When Raymond reached this point, he even shrugged. However, that won't affect Yashur's lessons. He can ride on anyone's fall. A fall that can be ridden by anyone? Wu Yin didn't know what to say. Isn't everyone's fall only allowed to be ridden by their own master? That's why our genius dragon tamer, Yashur, is an exception. Raymond chuckled. This is also one of the 7 great unimaginable events of the Academy. Wu Yin smiled helplessly. He looked at Yashur and said, I didn't think you'd be so good. It was Yashur's turn to smile bitterly. Chapter 1277. While Wu Yin, Yashu, and Raymond were chatting happily in private, the instructor finished his speech and warning. Also, when you're in combat, remember to never let your fall come into direct contact with a dragon other than your practice opponent. That's extremely dangerous. The instructor reminded them patiently. If something happens, you might even be punished by the school rules. That's why you must pay attention to your surroundings when you're training. Do you understand? Understood. Understood. The instructor was satisfied when he heard the students' resounding responses. Then, he seemed to think of something, and his gaze landed on Wu Yin. He pretended to cough and speak. Rune? Randall, where's your fall? Yes. Following the instructor's voice, the whole place went silent. All the students looked at Wu Yin with inquisitive eyes. Clearly, all the students present wanted to see what this cheating student, Par, was like. They wanted to see his strength even more. On the surface, they didn't say much, but in the hearts of these students, they must be somewhat unconvinced, right? They were dissatisfied with Wu Yan's ability to skip the basic classes and enter the advanced classes. It wasn't just the students. Even the teachers and instructors didn't approve of Wu Yan. However, compared to the students, the teachers and instructors knew that Wu Yan was a dragon knight, and that fall was a holy dragon. Thus, even if they didn't approve of him, as long as Wu Yan could show them the strength they approved of, it didn't matter if he got in through the back door. They might be able to accept it. Sensing the gazes of the surrounding students and instructors, Wu Yin thought to himself, Lebecca was right. He looked around at everyone and rolled his eyes. An imperceptible smile appeared on his face, as if he had an idea. Instructor. As if he's asking a question, Wu Yin raised his hand with a half-smile on his face. He asked with a smirk, I'm sorry. Because I'm new here, I didn't know that I need to bring my own fall to practice the dragon riding combat skill. Hearing this, the surrounding students immediately cried out in shock. Even the instructor felt as if he had been fooled and frowned. Since this is combat training, you must bring your fall with you. You'll have to bring your own fall with you. Do I have to remind you of that? The rest of the students also looked at Wu Yin with contempt. Among them, the blonde girl who used to look at Wu Yin with a cold expression. Her blue eyes are filled with a chill that can pierce one's nerves. Oh, is that so? However, Wu Yin ignored all of this. He asked curiously, then why can Yashua not bring his fall? In an instant, the entire place was silent. Raymond looked at Wu Yin in shock. Perhaps he felt like Wu Yin was poking at Yashu's sore spot. Yashu clenched his fists. He felt bad. However, no matter how unwilling he was, he couldn't deny his fall. The fact that she was still sleeping in his body. According to the rule of the knighthood of Lorimon, children who had reached the age of 7 had to go to a Bayan forest for the youngling ritual after a month. Yashu was the same. Ever since he was chosen as a dragon breeder when he was 7, the dragon breeder in Yashu's body hadn't changed at all. It was an eternal pain in Yashu's heart. After all, to the students of Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, awakening the infant that was lodging in their bodies was the most basic duty of a dragon cultivator. It was normal. A dragon breeder's dragon breeder would be born in the first year of the basic course. They would then have their own fall. Yashu was the only exception. He was still in his dragon breeder state. To put it bluntly, Yashu didn't even have the right to have his fall. He was just a dragon breeder who hadn't even been born yet. If it had been anyone else, they might have already repeated a year because of this incident and not be able to advance to the advanced class. However, Yaksu had the title of Genius Dragon Tamer and could ride other people's fall. That was how he passed the combat test and advanced to the advanced class. Everyone in Ansari Academy knew about this. Therefore, everyone knew why Yashu didn't have his fall. They also knew that even without his fall, Yashu could still rely on the fall he borrowed from others for combat training. Naturally, no one would say anything about it. But Wu Yin, Roan, Randall, you might not know, but Yashu is a dragon breeder. Blake is an exception. The instructor thought Wu Yin didn't know about Yashu's situation, so he explained. His fall hasn't been born yet, but he can ride other people's dragons for combat. That's why the academy allowed him to borrow other people's fall. That is to say, Wu Yin interrupted the instructor with a "I've been waiting for you" for a long time expression. As long as he can ride other people's fall and fight in combat, he doesn't have to bring his own fall, right? The instructor was at a loss for words. He waved his hand half-heartedly. It's a little troublesome to explain, but it's fine if you want to understand it that way. That's good. Wu Yin looked at Raymond with a calm expression. Then, he said something that shocked everyone in the arena. You're right. You're right. You're right. Hey, Raymond, can you lend me your fall for a moment? The air froze. The clear words reverberated in everyone's ears like an echo, causing everyone to look at each other in dismay, including the instructor and the blonde girl. Raymond and Yashur, on the other hand, were completely dumbfounded. Loong. Raymond was at a loss. He forced a smile. You're kidding, right? What? Wu Yin raised an eyebrow. You don't want to? It's not that I don't want to. Raymond stuttered. His brain must have short-circuited. But you know what? Everyone's fall is only allowed to be ridden by their own master. If you ride other people's dragons, Dragon 1 will go crazy and it won't be a joke. Listening to Raymond's stuttering and cautious words, Wu Yin rolled his eyes. But Yashu is an exception, isn't he? How do you know I can't? Raymond immediately understood Wu Yin. Roan? Randall. The instructor reacted and began to voice his dissatisfaction. Even if you're a freshman, you should at least know how dangerous it is to ride other people's dragons. What if something happens? Wu Yin didn't answer. Instead, he looked at Raymond and asked one last question. Well, let me borrow it for a while. Raymond hesitated. It was obvious that he didn't believe Wu Yin could do it. Even Bridget bared its fangs at Wu Yin and roared angrily. Roar! Although it was only an earth dragon, it was still a dragon. Bridget's roar turned into a small gust of wind that blew at Wu Yin. His dragon robe and hair fluttered wildly in the wind. Seeing this scene, almost everyone at the scene rejoiced in his misfortune, and some even laughed mockingly. Enduring Bridget's roar with an expressionless face, Roan's wine-red eyes shifted to Bridget. He stared into the dragon's eyes, a trace of golden light flashing in his eyes. Shut up! A cold shout echoed without warning. The expressions on everyone's faces froze. They felt that it was ridiculous. A man yelling at a dragon. Wasn't that ridiculous? Just when everyone thought that Bridget was going to get angry and Raymond was about to calm him down, a shocking scene occurred. Oh, Bridget, who was roaring majestically just now, looked like a puppy that saw a stick. It let out a whimper filled with fear. Its four limbs trembled as it closed its mouth. It even fell to the ground. Its dragon eyes were filled with fear. Impossible. Raymond was the first to cry out in disbelief when he saw his fall do something that even he had never seen before. Yashur also had a look of disbelief on his face. The boys and girls who were looking at Wu Yin with disdain were also stunned. They looked at Bridget, who was bowing down, and gradually lost their minds. Chapter 1278. Dragons are prideful by nature. This is a fact that every dragon cultivator and even ordinary people know. To put it bluntly, if it wasn't for the fact that dragons can't replenish their star essence, and are facing extinction, humans wouldn't be able to get involved with the powerful dragons at all. And now, a human was yelling at a dragon, and the dragon was actually lying on the ground like a puppy, as if it was prostrating itself on the ground in a subservient posture. If this scene is reported to the higher-ups of the Academy, it will probably be recorded in the history books and be treated as a legend. After all, even if the masters of dragons want their dragons to bow down like this, no one knows if there are any examples, but at the very least, they've never seen it before. Therefore, the first-year students of the advanced course class can only look at this scene dumbfoundedly, unable to react for a while. The blonde girl stared at Wu Yin standing in front of Bridget. Her cold blue eyes trembled, not knowing what to think. Of course, Wu Yin, as the person involved, doesn't know what others are thinking, neither does Bridget. To the others, Wu Yin just yelled at Bridget. However, Bridget could feel the pressure coming from Wu Yin's yell. Bridget's blood started trembling, and it felt like its heart was being crushed by Wu Yan's yell. That kind of oppressive feeling, Bridget had also felt it before, for example. In this Ansari Kingdom's Dragon Riding Academy, there were 5 holy dragons of the same race. That was the pressure that came from a higher level of life form. Moreover, the pressure that Bridget felt from this skinny human in front of him was the strongest he had ever felt in his life. It's stronger than the 5 holy dragons in the Academy. Otherwise, Bridget wouldn't be in such a sorry state. For the dragon race, it was part of their prideful nature to pay their respects to a higher level of life. Therefore, the scene that others see as absurd is natural for the dragons who also feel the pressure from their life forms, so the students didn't notice. His own fall is also looking at Wu Yin with a respectful gaze. Of course, this is also because Wu Yin is the true ancestor, the king of vampires. That's why the dragons who follow the higher bloodlines are paying respect and fear to him. If the king of dragons comes in person, if the king of dragons came in person, it would bring pressure to the dragons. It's not just simple respect and fear. Ignoring the dumbfounded gazes of the people present, Wu Yin patted Bridget's thick back, then jumped on its back. He sat down on the riding gear. Roar! Bridget seemed to have received some kind of order. He no longer looked like a coward. Instead, he raised his head and roared. He exerted strength on his 4 limbs and stood up. He did not resist the rider on his back at all. No way, right? Raymond rubbed his eyes. After confirming that the scene in front of him was real, he cried out in shock. He's really got on it. The students who were awakened by Raymond's voice all burst into an uproar. Among them, Yashu, the instructor, and the blonde girl were still staring at Wu Yin, their hearts full of shock. The most special student after Ansari's Dragon Riding Academy, Yasha, after Blake, another genius dragon tamer who could ride someone else's fall, had appeared. However, they didn't know that unlike Yashu, Wu Yin could only ride fall because of his physique, not because he's a genius dragon tamer. Instructor, Wu Yin finally smiled as if his prank had worked. He said to the instructor in a mocking tone, "Now I can fight too, right?" And the instructor nodded his head in a daze. When he regained his senses, he quickly opened his mouth and said something that shocked all the students. "But you're clearly a dragon knight. Why don't you ride your own holy dragon and engage in dragon riding combat?" Dragon rider? A dragon rider? All the students trembled. No way. Yashu and Raymond were shocked as well. A dragon rider. The blonde girl's eyes narrowed slightly, and the way she looked at Wu Yin gradually changed. She no longer disagreed with him, but a sense of competition. Apart from that, she couldn't help but be suspicious. There were only 5 holy dragons in the entire Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. In other words, among all the students in the academy, only 5 could be called dragon knights. If Wu Yin was a dragon rider, then it wasn't impossible for the academy to allow him to skip the basic classes and directly enter the advanced classes. At this thought, the students looked at Wu Yin with disdain and shock in their eyes. Now, their gazes were filled with curiosity. Wu Yin was helpless when he saw this. To be honest, even the mother of dragons in this world might not be as strong as his dragon, let alone a holy dragon. After all, it was one of his trump cards. If he released it, All it would take was a full-powered attack to turn the entire Lormon knighthood empire back to the Stone Age. Why would such an existence be released for actual combat training like dragon riding combat technique? It would be best if he didn't blow up the academy. Wu Yin pulled on Brigid's reins and said to the instructor, "Instructor, the higher the level of the dragon, the better the result of the battle. Although the dragon's strength is an important factor in the battle, the rider's ability is also a factor in the battle, isn't it?" The instructor was dumbfounded by Wu Yan's words. To put it bluntly, the so-called dragon riding skill was nothing more than a direct physical contact with the dragon, merging the rider's will with the dragon's will, and controlling the dragon one was riding to fight. Therefore, if a rider's ability is far superior to the other riders, then even if the dragon's level is disproportionate to the other riders, the rider will still be able to win. Wu Yin forced a smile when he saw the instructor's dumbfounded expression. Besides, isn't it unfair to ride a holy dragon against an earth dragon, a winged dragon, or a water dragon? You don't have to worry about that. However, the instructor gave such an answer after being startled for a moment. There are 5 holy dragons in our academy. The owner of one of them is in our class. In our class? This time, it was Wu Yan's turn to be stunned. Sylvia? Her Highness, Princess of Lormon. The instructor tilted his body slightly and called out to the students. Yes. Following a cold response, a young girl holding the reins stepped forward and looked at Wu Yan. Seeing this young girl, Wu Yan was stunned again. His eyes flashed with astonishment. It was all because of this so-called Sylvia who had walked forward. Her Highness, Princess of Lormon, is the golden-haired girl who looked at him with a sharp gaze. Her Highness? Wu Yan looked at the golden-haired girl in astonishment and asked with uncertainty. Her Highness, is that what she means? What other highness could there be? Yashio couldn't help but ridicule. Raymond also softly explained the situation to Yashio. She's the 4th daughter of the current Night King of Lorea Knighthood. She's also the 4th princess of Lorea Knighthood, Sylvia, Princess of Lormon. Hearing this, Wu Yan was speechless. He didn't think that he would be able to meet the princess of this kingdom while attending school. Should he call himself lucky? Or dog shit luck? The master of the holy dragon mentioned by the instructor, could it be this princess? Sylvia? Her Highness Princess Lorea is one of the few dragon knights in our school. As expected, the instructor's words solved the doubts in Wu Yan's heart. Her Highness is also a dragon knight. Roland? Randall, if you don't mind, let Her Highness be your sparring partner for the dragon riding combat skill training this time. What do you think? As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell silent. Every student's eyes lit up with excitement. A sparring match between 2 dragon knights? I cannot watch this. I have no problem. Under everyone's expectant gazes, Sylvia expressionlessly opened her mouth. She glanced at Wu Yan with cold eyes. Did I offend you? Wu Yan pursed his lips, and he helplessly voiced out his thoughts. I have no problem as well. Chapter 1279. The first time she heard about someone transferring to the advanced class was the night before the start of the new semester. That night, Sylvia learned about the matter from her maid who was in charge of taking care of her, and she was very surprised. Of course, Sylvia was not surprised that someone had transferred to the advanced class. Instead, she was surprised that her maid would mention such a trivial matter. After all, Sylvia was a princess. Although her maid was only a maid, she was still a princess maid. Why would she pay attention to the transfer of a student and even tell her about it? However, after some questioning, Sylvia finally understood why her maid would tell her about such a matter. It was because the person who was about to transfer to the advanced class was not a student with good grades in the academy, but a person who had jumped to the advanced class without going through the basic class. Entering the advanced class without going through the basic class? Wasn't that going through the back door? Therefore, on that night, Sylvia's impression of this unknown new student dropped to the lowest point. Other than having a special identity as the 4th princess of the Night Kingdom of Lormon, Sylvia's meticulous, straightforward, and tough style was also one of the reasons why she was famous in the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. In order to obtain results that matched her status and behave in a manner that matched her status. Sylvia's training in the academy was extremely strict. Thanks to her hard work, Sylvia had successfully grown her foal, Lancelot, into a holy dragon while she was still learning the basics. Such results were not bad at all. Unfortunately, Sylvia's words and actions were too unreasonable due to her meticulous personality, causing her to receive a lot of negative comments. Therefore, Sylvia's results were good, her strength was strong, and she was a dragon knight. Her appearance was also second to none in the academy, but not a single student was willing to interact with her. It was also because of this that Sylvia, with her straightforward personality, had extreme feelings of rejection towards the students who came in through the back door. This was also the reason why Sylvia looked at Wu Yin with such a sharp and cold gaze. Originally, in today's dragon riding combat technique, practical training, after learning that Wu Yin was a dragon knight, Sylvia's sense of disdain lessened significantly. However, the scene that appeared before Sylvia's eyes caused the fury in her heart to erupt. Looking at Wu Yin, who was riding on Bridget, Sylvia suppressed the anger in her heart and spoke coldly. "Are you looking down on me?" Sylvia wasn't the only one who thought that way. That was what everyone thought. Knowing that his opponent was a dragon knight riding a holy dragon, he actually used an earth dragon that had yet to evolve to meet him. If this wasn't disdain, what else could it be? Listening to Sylvia's cold words and the whispers of the students around him, Wu Yin couldn't help but feel bitter inside. Should he release the black dragon or the white dragon for actual combat training? The power of a familiar was no laughing matter, not to mention the familiars of a primogenitor. Even the slightest ripple could wipe out the entire academy. How could Wu Yin do that? But he couldn't just tell her that. "My dragon is too strong. I'll pass." That would make him a laughingstock. It had to be said that sometimes being too strong was also a sin, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Wu Yin shrugged. It's not necessarily the higher the level of the dragon, the more powerful the rider is. Didn't I just say that? Is that so? Not only did Sylvia not feel relieved, her expression became even colder. "You're saying that with your abilities, you can defeat me riding a holy dragon even if you're riding an earth dragon, right?" Wu Yin couldn't help but smile bitterly. "I also have my own reasons and difficulties, if you must think of it this way. If that's the case, I can't help it." Sylvia was silent for a moment before she looked up. The coldness on her face disappeared, replaced by an expressionless one. "I understand." With that said, Sylvia flipped over and jumped on her fall. Lancelot immediately opened his eyes and soared into the sky. Roar! With a dragon's roar, the holy dragon Lancelot, covered in white fur and as large as an elephant, looked down at Wu Yin with disdain. It was like a tiger staring at its prey. On his body, a clear flow of mana fluctuated in the air and rose up. "Yoa!" At the side, Raymond let out an exaggerated shout among the students who had completely fallen into the crowd of onlookers. "It seems that the Blue-Eyes Princess has been infuriated. My Bridget, don't let anything happen to you. Riding an earth dragon and fighting a holy dragon." Yashur stared at Wu Yin and muttered, "Can he really win?" Under the watchful eyes of all the students, Sylvia looked down at Wu Yin with the bearing of a king. Her cold voice reverberated in the air. "Don't think I'll go easy on you." With that, Sylvia swung her reins and her expression turned serious. "Lancelot, roar!" Lancelot's eyes flashed fiercely. He leaped into the air and opened his mouth. A blue magic formation that was 1/3 the size of his body rippled out and aimed downwards like a cannon. The next moment, countless beams of light pierced through the air and rained down on Wu Yin like meteors falling from the sky. They enveloped the top of his head and rained down on him without giving him a chance to explain himself. Sylvia didn't go easy on him. "Careful!" Yashio and Raymond couldn't help but shout out. The faces of all the students also became solemn, and their hearts also rose. Under everyone's gaze, Wu Yin raised his head and looked at the beams of light shooting towards him. He gently closed his eyes. "Wah!" The students widened their eyes in shock. Sylvia's eyes flashed fiercely. While the crowd was in an uproar because of Wu Yan's actions, Wu Yin connected his consciousness to Bridget's. The so-called dragon riding skill was to combine the rider's consciousness with the dragon's consciousness so that the dragon would follow the rider's consciousness and fight. It wasn't difficult for the rider and the dragon to merge their consciousness. Usually, as long as the dragon was willing to open its heart to the rider and accept the rider, it could be easily done. Once this was done, Wu Yin, who had infinite martial arts, would he need any of the combat skills? The dragon provided power. The rider provided skill. Even if the power wasn't enough, Wu Yin, who had the strongest skill, would not lose to any rider. At least, he wouldn't lose to a dragon knight, who could only control a dragon and didn't have a paladin armor. Under the astonished gazes of the audience, Bridget also closed his eyes and started to dance. Yes, Bridget began to dance. Like a stream of light with afterimages, Bridget seemed to be able to see the incoming beams with his own eyes. His powerful dragon legs kicked the ground, and his body flashed. Everyone could only see a dragon figure gliding in the field with ease, leaving afterimages behind as he dodged the beams one after another. Bang, 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 bang. The beam of light directly dispersed the afterimage left by Bridget in the field and landed on the ground, exploding a burst of dust and smoke, stirring up small waves of wind that enveloped the entire training ground. When the beam of light fell, small pits had already appeared in the field. As for Bridget, he flashed once again and appeared in the center of the field, undamaged. What? Sylvia's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. Heavens! The students outside the training field murmured in a daze. What kind of dragon riding skill is that? Yashure's face was filled with disbelief. And my Bridget can still fight like that. Raymond was also stunned. While everyone was stunned by Bridget's miraculous dodging technique, Wu Yin opened his eyes and met Sylvia's gaze. The corner of his lips curled up. Dong! Bridget stomped on the ground and shot into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Lancelot. Sylvia's expression finally changed. Chapter 1280. In everyone's eyes, Bridget rose to the sky like a rocket. With a sharp piercing sound, he shot up like an arrow and flashed in front of Lancelot, who was flying in midair. In Sylvia's eyes, she only felt her eyes on Wu Yin blur for a moment. Following a muffled stomp, Wu Yin appeared in front of her on Bridget. Sylvia's heart clenched and her expression changed when she met the wine-red eyes right in front of her and saw the cold glint flashing in them. No matter if it was an earth dragon, a pterosaur, or a water dragon, once a dragon that could fly or not, once it evolved into a holy dragon, it would definitely grow wings and soar in the sky. Thus, in the eyes of others, in a battle between an earth dragon rider and a pterosaur rider, the pterosaur that had the advantage in the air would definitely have the upper hand. Not to mention, the one in the battle was not a pterosaur, but a real holy dragon. An earth dragon jumping into the air in a battle with a flying opponent was undoubtedly a very foolish action. But such a foolish action brought Sylvia a frantic sense of danger. Sylvia's nerves immediately tensed up, and she pulled the reins in her hand. Just as she wanted to control Lancelot to use a defensive spell, but before she could do so, a shadow of a whip appeared in front of Sylvia's eyes. That was Bridget's tail. Bang! Accompanied by a sonic boom, the powerful shadow of the whip struck Lancelot's body. The ferocious force poured into Lancelot's dragon body that was definitely tougher than an earth dragon's. With a muffled sound, Lancelot howled and fell to the ground like a meteor. Bang! The huge dragon body smashed into the ground. A thick cloud of dust was stirred up. Lancelot let out a painful howl. Clearly, it had suffered quite a bit of damage. Lancelot! Although Sylvia, who was riding Lancelot, did not suffer any direct damage, she still turned pale with fright. At this moment, a sharp whistling sound. It reached Sylvia's ears. Sylvia raised her head abruptly. She looked at the sky, and in the next second, Blykid's equally large figure was imprinted in her eyes again. In her eyes, it was as if a heavy mountain had smashed on a Lancelot's body. Boom! Roar! The violent impact caused Lancelot to howl in pain. His mind was in a mess, and he almost lost consciousness. Sylvia almost fell from the impact. She grabbed onto the reins with all her might and barely managed to survive. However, the outcome had already been decided. Bridget stepped on Lancelot's body and aimed his mouth at Lancelot's head, his eyes flashing with a dangerous light. At this point, Sylvia and Lancelot understood. As long as Lancelot made the slightest suspicious movement, the other party would not hesitate to release the magic that they had been preparing and smash Lancelot's body. Looking at Wu Yin, who is riding on Bridget, and Bridget, who is stepping on Lancelot, the instructor regained his senses when he saw Sylvia's dazed expression. He quickly announced the order. The winner is Roland? Randall. The instructor's sentence finally caused the stupefied students to come back to their senses. They looked at each other in dismay before commotion broke out. He won. He really won. That Roland, riding an earth dragon, won against Her Highness, riding a divine dragon. Too amazing, as expected of President Lebekasgard. In the short span of half an hour, everyone's opinion of Wu Yin has changed from disdain at the start to support him at the present moment. Yashur, did you see that? Did you see that? Raymond excitedly hugged Yashur and jumped up and down. My Blykid actually won against a divine dragon, and Her Highness Lancelot at that. The winner isn't Blykid, it's Roland. Yashur rolled his eyes at Raymond before looking at Wu Yin with excitement in his eyes. If I have Roland's superb riding skills, I won't be looked down upon even if Ball isn't born yet, right? To be able to display such strength while riding someone else's dragon. This is a true genius dragon tamer. You worked hard, riding Bridget down from Lancelot. Wu Yin also jumped down from Bridget's back. He patted Bridget's neck and Bridget whined like a spoiled child. Then, Bridget raised its head and roared in excitement. For a dragon, to be able to rely on one's strength to defeat an existence of a higher level is a kind of glory, isn't it? Sylvia snapped out of her daze and looked at Wu Yin, who was about to leave the arena with Blykid. She jumped down from Lancelot and shouted at Wu Yin. Wait, I haven't lost yet. You've already lost. Wu Yin frowned, causing Sylvia to become even more excited. If that's the case, let's fight again. Why? Wu Yin said casually. Do we have a reason to fight again? Why not? How could there not be? Sylvia clenched her fists, her blue eyes filled with despair. I can't let Lancelot lose against an earth dragon. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. You won't allow it. Wu Yan's eyes turned cold. What do you mean? Are you implying that I can't win against you, Your Highness? No, that's not. That. Sylvia finally realized what she had said, and her pretty face turned pale. It's just. Tears welled up in her cold eyes, causing all the voices around her to disappear. How am I supposed to become a good knight? A good knight? Wu Yin raised his eyebrows. Looking at Sylvia, who was trying her best to hold back her tears, he sighed. Although I don't really understand what you're thinking, you're only concerned about me using an earth dragon to defeat your divine dragon, right? Sylvia's expression tensed up. Her thoughts were clearly exposed. Wu Yin closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his wine-red eyes were filled with sharpness. Listen carefully, Sylvia. Sylvia was stunned. She didn't expect Wu Yin to call her by her name. It wasn't just her. Even the surrounding students were in an uproar, their voices filled with shock. However, Wu Yin ignored all of this, looking straight into Sylvia's eyes. He spoke as if he was making a declaration. I can win against you, not because Lancelot is too weak, nor is it because you're too weak, but because I'm stronger than you. You're stronger than me? Sylvia's body trembled. Yes, it's that simple. Wu Yin let go of Bridget's reins and walked in front of Sylvia, the breeze blowing his dragon-riding robe, causing his body to emit an oppressive aura, instantly suppressing Sylvia's aura. If you're really stubborn and want to prove your strength, then you should go back and seriously absorb the experience of this battle. Improve yourself, and when you're stronger, come and challenge me again, not like a stray dog, unwilling to accept your defeat and recklessly challenging me. Or do you think that I was the one who used underhanded means to win against you? No. Sylvia bit her lips, her eyes filled with emotions. Although she didn't want to admit it, Anyone with eyes could see that Wu Yin had been fighting head-on, not using any underhanded means. Just like what Wu Yin said, he won because he was stronger than Sylvia. Since that's the case, do you think you can win if you fight me again? Wu Yin narrowed his eyes. If you dare to say that, then I can accept your challenge. Sylvia was silent. The surrounding students were silent as well. So, if you want to win against me, then become stronger. When you become stronger, then challenge me again. When that time comes, I won't refuse. Wu Yin didn't say anything else. He turned around, took Bridget's reins, and walked out of the arena. Become stronger. Sylvia stared blankly at Wu Yan's departing figure. After a while, she clenched her fists, the despair in her eyes turning into determination. Yes, become stronger. Even if it's for him, I have to become stronger. Chapter 1281. The Student Council President, Lebecca, Randall's guard, Rune. Randall, the cheating student who entered the academy through the back door, was not only a dragon knight, but he also used his excellent dragon riding skills to defeat a dragon knight who rode a holy dragon in actual combat training. The fourth princess of the Night Kingdom of Lorimon, Sylvia Randall, was also a dragon knight. Loria's knighthood. In less than half a day, such a rumor had swept through the entire Ansari State Dragon Riding Academy. Why was it that when the students heard such a rumor, their first reaction was to half believe it? That was only natural. Who was Sylvia? Not only was she the fourth princess of Loria's knighthood, but she was also a true dragon knight. Her grades were always first in the year, and no student of the same grade could surpass her. Although her interpersonal relationships weren't very good due to her personality, at least in terms of strength, there was no doubt about it. First in the year, another dragon knight. How could such an existence be defeated by an unknown guard using an earth dragon? If it wasn't for the advanced classes, Princess Sylvia and Rune, the students in Randall's class repeatedly guaranteed that it was true, that they saw it with their own eyes. Almost the entire class said so. Then the students of Ansari Academy didn't just half believe it, they didn't believe it at all. Until the instructors used this as a textbook example to tell the students the importance of dragon riding skills. All the students had no choice but to believe it. It was indeed true. Realizing this, the students were both shocked and relieved. They were shocked by the miraculous nature of Wu Yan's dragon riding skills, and they also understood why Wu Yan could be taken in by the academy through the back door. And so in just half a day, the negative comments of taking the back door and cheating student all disappeared. In their place, there were positive rumors of miraculous dragon riding skills and another genius dragon tamer. To the students, the fact that Wu Yan had the ability to ride someone else's fall wasn't as shocking as the fact that he rode an earth dragon and defeated Sylvia, who was a dragon knight. As such, many of the aristocratic children who were studying in the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy were coveting Wu Yan's magical dragon riding skill that allowed an earth dragon to defeat a holy dragon. One by one, they rushed to pay him a visit. Hopefully, he can learn the skill that can turn something rotten into something magical from Wu Yan. Of course, it wasn't just the nobles. The rest of the students, and even those outside the academy who had heard the news, expressed their hope that Wu Yan would teach them the skill of riding a dragon. Because of this, they even offered a lot of tempting conditions. There are even a lot of people who want to be apprenticed to Wu Yan directly. The academy is also hoping to incorporate Wu Yan's dragon riding skill and teach it to the students. Unfortunately, when the entire Ansari State's Dragon Riding Academy was in an uproar in order to find Wu Yan himself had disappeared from the eyes of others and came to the academy's library. As the famous dragon breeding academy in the Lorraine Kingdom, the Ansari State's Dragon Riding Academy's library was quite valuable. Basically, as long as it was related to dragons and dragon breeding, one could find it in the library of the Ansari State's Dragon Riding Academy. That was why Wu Yan came here to look for books that were useful to him. Walking through a passage filled with bookshelves, he scanned the books on the shelves while opening up his system tab without batting an eyelid. Dungeon World, Star Carving's Dragon Rider Dungeon Mission. Acquire Mission 1. Enter Tokisaki Gurumi's Red Jade mode and use the ability of his angel, Zafkiel to use the bullet of 12, Yod Bet. Return to the infant ritual in Abayan Forest when the Mother of Dragons placed the last descendant of the Holy Dragon Royal Family in the Avalon Holy Dragon Royal Family. Obtain a drop of the first blood of the last descendant of the Holy Dragon Royal Family before he was born. Mission reward: 10,000 equipment points, item points, ability points, summoning points. Mission 2, yet to be activated. Mission 3, yet to be activated. After confirming his dungeon mission, Wu Yin put away the system list and started looking for books related to the Holy Dragon Royal Family. The world of Star Carving's Dragon Rider was a world that Wu Yin had never seen before. Naturally, Wu Yin had no idea who the Holy Dragon Royal Family was. Because of this, he could enter Kurumi's Red Jade mode at any time and use the ultimate ability of his angel, Zafkiel, Bullet of 12, Yod Bet. Returning to the past and continuing his own dungeon mission, but because he did not know anything about the Holy Dragon Royal Family, the dungeon mission was stuck in a stalemate. If he did not have enough information about the Holy Dragon Royal Family, he would not be able to continue the dungeon mission. Wu Yin didn't know when the last descendant of Avalon's Holy Dragon Royal Family was entrusted to someone else. He also didn't know who the last descendant was entrusted to by the Dragon Matriarch. Even if he wanted to use the Bullet of 12, Yod Bet, he did not know how many years he would have to go back. In addition, using the Bullet of 12, Yod Bet, would require a lot of time. Not only does it require a lot of time, it also requires a lot of spiritual power. With Kurumi's Red Jade mode's spiritual power, it's hard to say if Wu Yin can return to the time when the last of the Elvalin's Holy Dragon Royal Family was sent out. Even if he could, the amount of time he could stay in the past would depend on the amount of time he spent using the Bullet of 12, Yod Bet. It's not realistic for Wu Yin to stay in the past for a long period of time. Therefore, Wu Yin needs to have a good grasp of information so that he can complete Quest 1 in the shortest amount of time possible. He had no choice but to come to the library to search for information. Wandering around the bookshelves, Wu Yin's wine-red eyes scanned the books on the shelves in an attempt to find the words Avalon or Holy Dragon Royal Family. After 30 minutes, Wu Yin still did not find anything. This made Wu Yin vexed. Why is there not a single book related to this? Wu Yin frowned as he touched the thick covers of the books around him. Is there a secret behind this? Another voice came from behind Wu Yin without warning and echoed in his ears. What secret? The sudden voice woke Wu Yin from his thoughts. He turned around and saw Lei Becca's breathtaking face 10 centimeters away from him. Wah! Seeing that pretty face so close to him, Wu Yin jumped in fright. He quickly jumped a distance away with a vigilant look on his face. Yuwa, what a hurtful reaction. Lei Becca pretended to be sad and put on a tearful expression. Am I that scary? The normally majestic and gentle student council president had a unique style when she put on a tearful expression. It should be easy to attract a pack of wolves to fawn over her. However, Wu Yin, who was used to Shokuho Misaki and Kurumi's teasing, rolled his eyes in annoyance. Lei Becca, you are doing this on purpose. How could I? Lei Becca's tearful expression disappeared and was replaced with her usual elegant smile. The speed at which she changed her expression was astonishing. Instead, I would like to ask, why did the second famous genius dragon tamer of the Academy come to the library? Wu Yin raised an eyebrow and smiled. Then, why would the famous Empress True Red appear here? Of course it's to find you. Lei Becca narrowed her emerald eyes. Do you know that after you disappeared, everyone came here to ask about you? They even asked me to teach you how to ride a dragon. It's so annoying. Ugh. Wu Yin was speechless. Did you come here to take refuge? How could that be? Lei Becca refuted without thinking. Although those people are annoying, it's not hard to brush them off. I came here to ask if you want to participate in the Ares Temple Dragon Ritual. Chapter 1282. Ares Temple Dragon Ritual? Wu Yin froze on the spot. In this world, although the time and year were still represented by year, month, and day, it wasn't purely using numbers as the prefix of year, month, and day to express the time and year. For example, the 12 months of a year were represented by 12 constellations. The Ares Temple, for example, was the month of this world. It was also known as the Ares Temple month, the fourth month of the year. As for the Ares Temple dragon sacrifice, as the name suggested, it was an annual event held during the month of the Ares Temple. At the same time, it was also the spring activity of the Ansari Dragon Academy. During the Ares Dragon Rite, the students of the Ansari Dragon Academy would each ride their own fall and compete in a race similar to a marathon. Whoever could ride their own dragon first according to the route set by the Academy and reach the finish line first would be the winner of the Ares Dragon Rite and would be rewarded handsomely. Of course, the so-called handsomely rewarded was just the result being recorded in the record. It would be used as a reference for the students when they graduated. Therefore, even though Wu Yin learned about the Ares Temple Dragon ritual from Yashur and Raymond, he didn't give it much thought and tossed it to the back of his mind. After all, he didn't know if he could stay in this world until he graduated or if he could stay in the academy until he graduated. That was still an unknown quantity. If Lebecca didn't mention it, Wu Yin might have forgotten about it. In other words, scratching his face, Wu Yin looked at Lebecca with uncertainty. You want me to participate in that sports meet? The Ares Temple Dragon Rite isn't just a sports meet. It's a fine tradition of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. The results of the competition will be recorded in the official records. Lebecca corrected him and sighed. Even so, it's not wrong to describe it as a sports meet. Since you have nothing to do for now and the matter of joining the student council is still being arranged, why don't you participate in the dragon ritual? Is that so? Wu Yin looked a little disinterested. Wu Yin looked a little disinterested. Forget it. He had the time. I might as well stay here and read a book. It's not a good thing to be so uninterested in the activities of the academy right after entering. Lebecca put on a serious expression. If it weren't for the fact that the members of the student council are the executive committee members of the Ares Temple Dragon Rider Ritual Competition and can't participate in the competition as a contestant, I would also like to participate in the Dragon Rider Ritual Competition. In other words, Wu Yin had already turned around. Once again, he began to search for books. You're not joining either? Although I'm not participating. However, the Ares Palace Dragon sacrifice, this time, isn't completely unrelated to me. Lebecca suddenly curled her lips into a smile. I have decided to announce it during the Ares Temple Dragon sacrifice. Whoever gets the final victory will get the right to have a date with me. The right to a one-day date? Wu Yin couldn't help but look at Lebecca in astonishment. Lebecca responded with a smile and an extremely seductive tone. How is it? Do you want to join? I feel like your invitation is filled with malice. Wu Yin faced Lebecca directly. He looked directly into her eyes, full of meaning. Is it because I didn't use my fall in the dragon riding combat training, and you didn't get any information about my fall? Is that why you want me to participate in the dragon riding ritual and show off your fall? The smile on Rebecca's face froze. I knew it. Wu Yin slapped his forehead as if he had a headache and laughed bitterly. Although I know most girls are curious, isn't your curiosity a bit too strong? Oh, is that so? Lebecca recovered her smile and closed her eyes. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. When she opened her eyes again, they were filled with a strange light. I can't help it. There are too many mysteries surrounding you. If I ask you personally, you'll definitely use the excuse of memory loss to brush me off. I can only find out myself. Excuse? Wu Yin froze. When he saw the seriousness hidden under her perfect smile, he smiled helplessly. I see. I can't hide it from you, huh? No, you just didn't want to hide it. Lebecca shook her head and looked at Wu Yin. If you really wanted to hide something, you wouldn't have acted so conspicuously. Well, let's just treat it that way. Wu Yin shrugged. Lebecca clearly didn't want to stop the topic. She stared at Wu Yin. So you admit that you didn't lose your memory? Yes, I admit it. It's like you said, I didn't want to hide it. I just thought it would be more convenient. Wu Yin didn't hide anything. So, if you want to ask me something, you'll have to think about it carefully. There are some things I don't want to reveal. How direct? Lebecca turned her head away. Then, she turned back with a smile on her face. Since that's the case, you'll have to endure my excessive curiosity. I don't have a problem with that. Wu Yin chuckled when he saw the provocative smile on Rebecca's face. If you can really obtain a certain position in my heart, then I will definitely not hide anything from you. In the end, the things that I hide are not that shameful. It's just that it's very hard to believe. I think so too. Rebecca nodded when she recalled the star essence's rampage. She seemed to have thought of something and looked at Wu Yan. You said you won't hide anything from me if I gain a certain position in your heart. Rebecca suddenly moved in front of Wu Yan with an indescribable smile. Her beautiful face slowly moved towards his face. Her emerald-like eyes began to glow with an alluring luster. Don't tell me I still don't have a place in your heart. If I have to say it, I'm your benefactor. However, Wu Yan remained calm in the face of Rebecca's actions. He didn't avoid her beautiful eyes that were getting closer and closer. After all, not only did you save me, you even arranged for me to enter this academy and gain a temporary foothold. I can't thank you enough. Rebecca stopped when she saw Wu Yan's unmoved appearance. She stared at Wu Yan for a while. After a long while, she sighed. You're making me doubt my own charm. I'm also starting to doubt if you're treating me as an innocent little boy. Wu Yan rolled his eyes at her. He turned around and continued searching for books on shelves. Don't tell me you think you can gain a certain position in my heart by giving me some benefits? That's not what I was thinking. I just think your reaction is boring. Rebecca shrugged. And then, are you going to participate in the Aries Dragon Festival? I'm not really interested, but it's not like I don't want to participate. Wu Yan replied without turning his head. It's just that my fall isn't suitable for that kind of occasion. If you can lend me your fall, I don't mind participating. What did you say? Rebecca was stunned. She looked at Wu Yan in shock. You want to borrow my fall? Such a big reaction. Wu Yan glanced at her. Is there a problem? There's a huge problem. Rebecca frowned. Do you know what my fall is? Well, I've more or less heard of it. Wu Yan pursed his lips and smiled. The strongest holy dragon in the academy. Then do you think my fall is as easy to ride as that earth dragon? Rebecca's expression turned serious when she saw Wu Yan smiling instead of backing down. My fall's temper isn't as good as those little dragons. It won't let you ride it as you please. Even if I'm present, it'll be dangerous if something goes wrong. Of course it'll be dangerous. After all, the opponent is a dragon. But how do you know if you don't try? Wu Yan waved his hand. It just depends on whether you're willing to lend it to me. Rebecca's frown deepened when she saw Wu Yan's nonchalant attitude. She shook her head. Looks like you won't give up. Fine, I'll let you try. Chapter 1283. In the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, there was a special place for students to settle their own fall, Dragon House. In the Ansari Academy's Dragon House, not only were there dragon servants in charge of taking care of the dragons, even the treatment of the dragons far exceeded that of commoners. It was comparable to that of nobles. Even the treatment of the dragons was not as good as that of the Ansari Academy's Dragon House. Therefore, the Ansari Academy's Dragon House was almost filled with dragons. However, in the Dragon House filled with dragons, there was one dragon house that was an exception. It was much larger than normal dragon houses. Even the building itself was much more grand and luxurious than other dragon houses. In terms of appearance, it even gave people the feeling of a villa where nobles lived. But in this dragon house, there were only 5 dragons living there. 5 holy dragons. The 7th Dragon House. That was a facility for holy dragons in the academy. It was just a place for dragons to live, but the 7th Dragon House was like a villa. The place where nobles lived, their holy dragons, probably wasn't as luxurious as the 7th Dragon House. This also indirectly proved how rare and precious holy dragons were in people's hearts. At this moment, in one of the rooms in the 7th Dragon House, Sylvia was looking at the listless Lancelot lying on the ground. Her icy blue eyes were filled with sadness. I'm sorry, Lancelot. She stroked Lancelot's beautiful white fur. Her eyes were filled with emotions. Sylvia's voice was very depressed. It's all because I'm too weak. That's why you lost to an earth dragon. You. Lancelot turned his head and let out a comforting whimper, but his voice was also filled with depression. Clearly, The fact that he lost to an earth dragon made Lancelot feel rather bad. Dragons were all prideful by nature. As a holy dragon, losing to an earth dragon was indeed a huge blow to the dragon race. So much so that, even though Sylvia brought Lancelot's favorite food, Lancelot didn't eat anything. Strangely, Lancelot didn't eat even a little bit. This was the first time something like this had happened. However, compared to Lancelot, Sylvia seemed to have suffered a heavier blow. You clearly tried so hard to respond to me. It had grown into a holy dragon when it was still a baby dragon. In the end, it was me, a useless master, who dragged you down. Sylvia lowered her head. She bit her lip. Is it really because I don't have the talent of a dragon nurturer? If these words were heard by the students of the academy, their jaws would drop to the ground in shock. He was always first in the school year. Furthermore, she was one of the only 5 dragon knights in the academy. Who would believe that Sylvia did not have the talent to be a dragon nurturer? Besides, without the talent of being a dragon breeder, the mother of dragons wouldn't have entrusted her babies to Sylvia. At that time, Sylvia wasn't even a dragon breeder. However, Sylvia's words didn't sound like she was mocking herself at all. Instead, they sounded very real, which was really confusing. Sylvia could not help but reach out her hand and touch the star carving that was slightly above her chest through her clothes. She mumbled as if she was asking for help. Big brother, what should I do? How can I become stronger? Right at this moment, the door to the dragon house was suddenly opened, giving Sylvia a huge fright. Even Lancelot almost revealed an alarmed expression as he looked towards the door. The next moment, both man and dragon were stunned. It's here? Standing next to Laybeck at the entrance, Wu Yin smacked his lips as he looked around the ridiculously luxurious dragon house. They made a dragon house look like a luxurious villa. This Ansari Academy sure is rich. That's why you better not provoke it later. Laybeck kept sighing as if she wasn't optimistic about Wu Yan's chances. If we cause a ruckus here, the reconstruction will require a lot of money. It wasn't easy for me to get the Academy's approval. They really approved it? Wu Yan pursed his lips. Looks like the teachers in the Academy want to see if I can tame the strongest holy dragon in the Academy. Tame the strongest holy dragon in the Academy? Just as Wu Yin finished speaking, a shocked voice resounded from within the dragon house. It clearly entered Wu Yin and Laybeck's ears. Only then did they notice that there was another person present. Seeing the shocked Sylvia standing next to Lancelot in one of the dragon houses, Wu Yin and Laybeck were both shocked. Sylvia? Your Highness? Hearing 2 different names at the same time made Sylvia feel strange. This was the first time someone called her by her name in the academy. However, now wasn't the time to care about this. Compared to this, Sylvia was more concerned about what she'd just heard. Sylvia walked out of Lancelot's dragon room and stopped in front of Wu Yan. Before the two could react, Sylvia stared at Wu Yan's face and said in a low voice, "You did say that you want to tame the strongest holy dragon in the academy, right?" And in, "That's right. He just beat the crap out of him this morning, and now he's talking to him face to face." Wu Yan felt a bit uncomfortable, but he quickly recovered. "I did say that, in other words." Sylvia sucked in a breath of cold air. "You want to ride President Laybeck's fall?" "Well, that's what it is." "You." Sylvia's eyes widened and was instantly dumbstruck by Wu Yan's words. He actually wants to challenge a holy dragon as a mortal and the strongest holy dragon in the academy at that. Does this person really have the ability, or is he just being arrogant? If it's the latter, Sylvia wouldn't even look at Wu Yan. But if it's the former, thinking back to his miraculous dragon riding ability in the morning, Sylvia felt extremely conflicted. "Your Highness!" Seeing that Sylvia had calmed down, Laybeck stepped forward and stood in front of her. "We've already received permission from the teachers. As a precaution, Your Highness should take Lancelot away from the dragon house for the time being." Sylvia remained silent, but still obediently walked into Lancelot's room. She took Lancelot's reins and walked out of the dragon house. However, she stopped at the entrance and didn't intend to leave. It seemed that Sylvia wanted to watch Wu Yan ride the strongest holy dragon in the academy. Laybeck only looked at Wu Yan after Sylvia walked out of the dragon house. "Then be careful. I'll use star carving to comfort Fall. If necessary, I'll make you give up. Rebecca's expression was extremely serious. So, are you sure you want to ride my Fall? Wu Yin didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his hand. In that hand, an exquisite knight's sword was in his hand. The blade of his sword was flashing with a cold light. Don't worry, I can still protect myself. Rebecca shook her head with a bitter smile. She clearly took Wu Yan's words as a joke. Listen well. If you can't do it, don't force yourself. Wu Yan nodded nonchalantly. He raised his head and looked forward. In the depths of the seventh dragon house, dragon rooms were lined up side by side. They were separated by walls. Inside was an empty space. In the center of the row of rooms was an extremely large body lying there. It radiated a dangerous aura that made one's hair stand on end. It was a gigantic dragon the size of a house. Its fur was a deep red. The fur on its limbs was thick like armor. Its sharp claws flashed with a cold luster. Its eyes were closed as if it was taking a nap. Was that the holy dragon knight, Rebecca? Randall's Fall, the Academy's strongest holy dragon, Gyuvlin. As if it was only natural, Gyuvlin, who was much larger than an adult holy dragon, occupied the center of the seventh dragon house. It was as if he was showing off his position as the Academy's strongest dragon. A dragon's might permeated the surroundings, indicating his extraordinariness. Apart from Gyuvlin, Sylvia brought Lancelot to the dragon house. The other three holy dragons weren't there either. It was unknown if it was a coincidence or a deliberate arrangement. In any case, this meant that Wu Yin could use his power as much as he wanted here. Since the Academy had given permission, even if the dragon house was destroyed, Wu Yin wouldn't be held responsible. Wu Yan's lips slowly curved upwards. He looked at the dragon sitting across from him and tightened his grip on his sword. His heart surged. The next moment, he charged forward. Chapter 1284. President Rebecca. Outside the seventh dragon house, Rebecca had her eyes closed. She was focusing her consciousness on her star carving. She was releasing comforting emotions to the star carving in an attempt to get Guffrin to accept Wu Yan. However, Sylvia suddenly spoke. Do you think he can do it? The words sounded rather strange at first, but Rebecca knew what Sylvia was referring to. She didn't open her eyes, but continued to soothe star carving as she answered. To be honest, I don't know either. You don't know? Not only did Sylvia not show any confusion, she even became serious. President, do you mean he has a chance of succeeding? He is a mysterious and unfathomable person. Rebecca did not answer Sylvia's question directly. Instead, she said this sentence. Fall isn't by his side, and his identity is unknown. Yet, he has Yasha. Blake also has the ability to ride other dragons and can make a dragon kneel down in front of him with just a shout. Coupled with that incomparably magical dragon riding skill and some mysterious phenomena surrounding him. No matter which point it is, it all indicates that he is not an ordinary person. As though she was talking to herself, Rebecca's red lips parted slightly as she conversed with Sylvia. She didn't know that she had already self-destructed. She had been paying close attention to Wu Yan's affairs. After all, the matter of making a dragon kneel down with just a shout hasn't been widely circulated in the Academy yet. Most of the students were so engrossed in his dragon riding skill that they forgot that Wu Yin once made a dragon kneel down with just a shout. This also proves that Rebecca has been keeping an eye on Wu Yin all this time. However, Sylvia clearly didn't notice this and looked at Rebecca with a puzzled expression. But isn't he President Rebecca's guard? Why does it sound like the president has just met him? I have indeed just met him. Sylvia was stunned. Well, Rebecca opened her eyes and smiled at Sylvia. Your Highness, just think of it as me taking a fancy to him and recruiting him as my guard. All of a sudden, Rebecca's face froze and her expression changed drastically. Not good. Sylvia was shocked. She didn't have time to react. A loud explosion came from the seventh dragon house ahead. Bang! The deafening explosion caused the ground to tremble slightly and set off a gust of wind. Lebecca and Sylvia abruptly raised their heads to look in the direction of the seventh dragon house. Then, they saw it. They didn't know when it happened. The top of the seventh dragon house was blasted open, revealing a rather large hole. In the dragon house, a red shadow shot up into the sky at an extremely fast speed. It shot into the air and stopped in midair, revealing the silhouette of the red silhouette. Red fur, a huge body, muscles as thick as a suit of armor. It was Guffrin. Above Guffrin's head, in the middle of the dragon horns, was Wu Yin with his sword in hand. He looked like a dragon-slaying knight. However, Lebecca and Sylvia didn't feel the slightest bit of fascination when they saw Wu Yan's majestic appearance. Instead, they looked anxious. Guffrin! Lebecca took a step forward and shouted, "Calm down! Roland? Randall, what are you doing?" Sylvia couldn't help but shout, "Get out of Guffrin's way!" Wu Yan looked at Lebecca and Sylvia when he heard the two girls. His lips curled into a grin that only he himself could see. He looked at Guffrin with lightning speed, and he closed his eyes. He started connecting with Guffrin through his consciousness as a rider. However, if a rider wanted to connect with a dragon's consciousness, the dragon had to open its heart to the rider. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Last time, Bridget felt that Wu Yin was suppressing him in terms of life force. He was only an earth dragon and a young one at that. He couldn't resist this suppression in the slightest, so he simply followed Wu Yan's wishes and accepted Wu Yan. This time, however, was different. Not only was Guffrin a holy dragon, but he was also a fully matured holy dragon. His growth rate was even higher than that of an adult holy dragon. He was also the strongest existence in the Ansari Kingdom's Dragon Riding Academy. Even if a primogenitor like Wu Yin could suppress him in terms of life force, he still had the ability to resist. Thus, Guffrin could accept Wu Yin. The condition was that Wu Yin had to gain Guffrin's approval. This was the respect Guffrin had for an existence that suppressed him in terms of life force. At the same time, it was the dignity of a holy dragon. Without gaining his approval, he wouldn't be able to lower his head. That was Guffrin's intention. Roar! Raising his head, Guffrin let out an earth-shattering roar. His voice turned into sound waves that swept through the area like a storm. Whistling sounds instantly enveloped the entire area. Not good. Lebecca's expression was completely unsightly. Guffrin is getting serious. So this is the strongest holy dragon in the academy. Sylvia raised her hands to block the incoming sound waves. She forcefully supported her body that was about to be blown away and pulled on Lancelot's reins. She looked at Guffrin in shock. So strong. A young Lancelot can't compare to him at all. Sylvia looked at Wu Yin, who was still standing on Guffrin's head. His dragon robes fluttered in the wind, but his posture remained upright. She couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. Can he tame Guffrin? Roar! Roar! With another roar, Guffrin moved. The mountain-like body soared into the sky, accompanied by a loud sonic boom. It turned into a flash of red lightning, flashing back and forth in the sky, moving up and down and pacing back and forth. Whoosh! His extreme speed caused a sharp sound that reverberated through the air. On the ground, Lebecca and Sylvia couldn't even see Guffrin's true body. Their expressions changed again and again. Flying at such a terrifying speed, even if another dragon was holding on to him, he would still be flung away. However, the two of them didn't see Wu Yin being flung away by Guffrin. Instead, they saw him standing steadily on Guffrin's head, completely unaffected. This shocked both Lebecca and Sylvia greatly. As long as they could hear the sharp sound of air breaking, the two of them could tell what kind of speed Gufaline was flying at. Under such a powerful centrifugal force, let alone consciousness, even his organs might be flung out of his mouth. Under such circumstances, Wu Yin was still able to stand steadily on Guffrin's head. It was a miracle. On the other side, Wu Yin, who was riding on top of Guffrin's head, bitterly laughed as he listened to the incessant howling of the wind. Looking at the scene in front of him that has turned into a sea of white. You bastard, you're actually this serious. If it wasn't me, which human would be able to endure your torment? Roar! Roar! Guffrin roared in response. His roar carried a faint ripple of mana. Clearly, it was using its own magic power to strengthen its speed. Wu Yin could even feel a powerful repulsive force from Guffrin's body. He couldn't help but tighten his grip on Guffrin's horn. Even breathing became difficult. Guffrin could only roar, but Wu Yin understood what it meant. He would definitely not show any mercy. This meant that Guffrin was already going all out. When Guffrin went all out, he was already at the 8th rank. Coupled with the fact that he was a dragon with a noble bloodline, Guffrin's strength was already close to the 8th rank. He was only a hair's breadth away from reaching that rank. Wu Yin, who had sealed all his power, only had the boundless martial refinement and the physical abilities of a true ancestor. He was also at the 8th rank. They were evenly matched. Ha ha ha! Sensing Guffrin's intentions, Wu Yin laughed heartily. I understand. Since that's the case, I'll go all out as well. Don't die, Guffrin. His voice reverberated throughout the battlefield, reaching Leibecca and Sylvia's ears. In the next moment, Wu Yin raised the knight's sword in his hand. Above it, a dense air current began to sweep up. The whistling air covered the blade of the knight's sword, condensing into a shining halo. Then, Wu Yin slashed downwards. Chaotic returned to Horizon Dance. A dazzling saber light flashed and cut through the air. It was as if a saber had descended from the sky and landed on Gu Fulin's body. Boom! A blinding light exploded in the sky. Chapter 1285. Boom! The dazzling saber light slowly bloomed as if it had cut the entire sky into two halves. The space seemed to have been cut in half. The dazzling light carried the aurora-like saber halo and expanded in this part of the world. It then gradually reverberated, stirring up a gust of wind that swept in all directions. What? What is that? It's a lie, right? Leibecca and Sylvia's expressions constantly changed as they witnessed this scene. In the end, they were stunned as waves of shock surged through their hearts. However, they were quickly drowned out by the fierce winds. They raised their hands in front of themselves and closed their eyes to block the dazzling blade light in the sky. It wasn't until about a minute later that the wind and waves weakened and the strong light gradually dimmed. The two beautiful girls on the scene opened their eyes and looked up. Then, a huge body fell from the sky at the same time, smashing heavily on the ground. Bang! With a muffled thump, a gust of wind that was much weaker than before was stirred up. The falling figure was instantly hidden, and only when the dust settled did Leibecca and Sylvia finally see the true identity of the falling figure. It was Gyuvlin, who had been soaring through the sky like a god. However, at this very moment, Gufuli no longer had his previous awe-inspiring posture. He was like a heavily injured, ferocious beast, lying on the ground with traces of pain in his eyes. On his back, there was a hideous wound that stretched from his shoulder to his ribs. Blood seeped out of it. His scales and fur were already in tatters. Gyuvlin, Leibecca paled in fright and hurriedly ran towards Gyuvlin. Sylvia also reacted and quickly followed after her while holding on to Lancelot's reins. Just as the two girls were about to jump in front of Gufulin, a voice stopped them. All right, don't be so nervous. Most of the damage was absorbed by Gyuvlin's scales, fur, and the magic barrier around him. The wound on Gyuvlin's body is very shallow and will only hurt a little. It's just a superficial wound. Leibecca and Sylvia abruptly stopped in their tracks when they heard this. Only then did they stop. The two girls saw Wu Yin standing on Guffrin's neck. He's patting Guffrin's mane with a bitter smile on his face. Looks like I was a little too serious. Roar. Gyuvlin also roared, but it didn't have the same momentum as before. It was a cry of agreement. Although it sounded weak, it didn't seem to be in much pain. It was clearly fine. Leibecca sighed in relief when she heard Wu Yan's words and Gyuvlin's cry. She ran to Gyuvlin's side and imitated Wu Yan, stroking his hair. That's great. Looks like he's fine. Leibecca then asked Wu Yan with a frightened expression as she thought of something. Oh, what was that just now? Just now? It's the saber light that struck Guffrin down. Sylvia, who had caught up to them, added in a hurry. Her face was also full of shock. That was your attack, right? You're not a sacred sky dragon knight, are you? Leibeka looked at Wu Yin with a solemn expression. It was clear that Leibeka had the same thought. That was to be expected. When it came to attacking dragons with a human body, the first thing that came to mind was the Holy Sky Dragon Knights equipped with a Holy Knight armor and possessing extraordinary strength. If it was an Earth Dragon, Pterosaur, or Water Dragon, then it wasn't impossible for a powerful human to fight it with their own strength. However, Gyuvlin wasn't an Earth Dragon, Pterosaur, or Water Dragon. He was an adult sacred dragon. The Holy Sky Dragon Knight, equipped with the Holy Knight armor, was the number one possibility for a human to fight a holy dragon head-on. Wu Yan's attack just now definitely came from his own body. It wasn't an additional effect from an item, it's a real head-on attack. Since that was the case, it was reasonable to interpret Wu Yin as a sacred sky dragon knight, equipped with sacred knight armor. Unfortunately, Wu Yin only smiled helplessly at Leibeka and Sylvia's grave expressions. You're thinking too much. Putting aside whether or not I'm a Saint Sky Dragon Knight, the attack just now wasn't launched because I'm wearing the Holy Knight armor. Besides, did you see me summon my fall? If I didn't summon my fall, how would I get it to offer up Sacred Knight armor? The Holy Knight armor was a piece of equipment made by the Holy Dragon-level dragons with their own magic power. Every time a Holy Dragon Knight equipped the Holy Knight armor, they had to summon their own holy dragon and use their magic power to create a piece of equipment for the owner to equip. As a result, once the magic used to create the Sacred Knight armor was used up, the Sacred Knight armor would disappear. It could only be used again if a Sacred Dragon Knight created it and offered it up again. As a result, if a Sacred Sky Dragon Knight wanted to equip the Sacred Knight armor, they had to summon their fall and offer up the Sacred Knight armor. When the Sacred Knight armor ran out of magic, the Sacred Sky Dragon Knight would be able to use it. At that time, it wouldn't matter if Fall left their Sacred Knight armor. Speaking of which, the Sacred Knight armor was quite similar to vassal beasts. Both were created from pure magic and had all sorts of unique effects. Vassal beasts had the ability to transform into anything, while Sacred Knight armor was dazzling 100 Blossoms' built-in magic device. Once it ran out of magic, it would disappear. The difference was that familiars existed in the blood of vampires and were released by the vampires with mana. The Holy Knight armor, on the other hand, existed in Fall's body. If one wanted to equip it, Fall would have to pay mana to construct it before they could successfully equip it. However, if a Sacred Knight armor wanted to equip it, he had to summon Fall first. This was something that couldn't be changed. He didn't equip the Sacred Knight armor. Rebecca was bewildered. If he didn't equip the Sacred Knight armor, then what was that attack just now? That was just a sword skill. Sword skill? Leibeka and Sylvia were stunned. Vibrate the sword at a certain frequency and cause the surrounding air to vibrate. Then, use the vibrating air to form a shockwave and compress it into a slash. That's how it works. As he spoke, Wu Yin shook the sword in his hand. Instantly, strands of dense air swirled around the sword and enveloped it, forming a halo around it that made the sword shine brightly. It's called Chaotic Return to Horizon Dance. It's a pure sword skill that focuses on destructive and offensive power. Wu Yin looked at the stunned Leibeka and Sylvia and laughed. If you want to learn, I can teach you too. Leibeka and Sylvia immediately looked at each other, and then Leibeka laughed bitterly. After the miraculous dragon ride skill, you showed off such a terrifying sword skill. Are you even human? So strong. Sylvia's face was filled with shock. Can I still win against him? Ma, let's put that aside for now. Wu Yin felt like he overdid it when he saw the two girls' expressions. He rubbed his nose and patted Goflin's neck as if he was trying to change the topic. Let me tell you some good news. Guffrin has acknowledged me. I can ride Guffrin from now on. Leibeka and Sylvia recalled that Wu Yin came here to tame Guffrin. Acknowledged? Leibeka looked at her fall in shock. Really? Wu, you? Gufflin whimpered. It rubbed its head against Wu Yan's body in a very obedient manner, proving Wu Yan's words to be true. He really did tame it. Sylvia's expression was complicated. Well, I finally achieved my goal. Wu Yin looked at Rebecca, Sylvia, Guffrin, and Lancelot with a smile. Thank you for accompanying me. How about this? I'll cook a meal for everyone. Cook. Rebecca and Sylvia were stunned again. Chapter 1286. The Ansari Dragon Riding Academy took up a vast amount of land. In this dragon riding academy, where humans and dragons coexisted, there were already several school buildings. Other than the school buildings, there was also a church, a lecture hall, a library, and a student cafeteria. In addition to that, there were also 7 dragon houses and 4 student dormitories, as well as various training grounds, sports grounds, and arenas for activities. It would not be an exaggeration to call the entire Ansari Dragon Riding Academy a small city. Compared to the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, the Ansari city seemed to exist just for the sake of the academy. The scale of the inside and outside of the academy couldn't be compared at all. It was like comparing a bustling area to a residential area. The difference was obvious. Because of this, the Ansari city was also known as the Academy City. One could see the importance of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy with a single glance. However, due to the vast land, the male dormitory and female dormitory were very far apart. It would take up to 30 minutes to walk from one dormitory to the other. At this time, Wu Yin, Rebecca, and Sylvia were in another dormitory building extremely far away from the male dormitory of the advanced course class, Apollo Dormitory. The female dormitory of the advanced course class, Epona Dormitory. To be precise, it should be the top floor of Epona Dormitory, the royal room. This was a royal room specifically for Sylvia, the 4th princess of the Lorraine Kingdom of Knights. Not only was the activity space not inferior to the suites of 5-star hotels, it was also extremely luxurious. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was dazzling. Other than that, there were also facilities that normal dormitories didn't have. There was a living room with a fireplace, a dining room for eating, a study room for studying, a bedroom for living, a bathroom for bathing, a kitchen for cooking, etc. There were all sorts of room facilities. It couldn't be compared to the dormitories of normal students. It was more like a high-class dormitory. It didn't have the feel of a dormitory at all. Wu Yin didn't know if the room of the principal of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy was as luxurious as this. But this was the first time he saw a dormitory that could be called wasteful. Even the girls' dormitories of Tokuwadai Middle School weren't as luxurious as this. Of course, Wu Yin wouldn't be surprised if it was just the luxurious room. After all, Sylvia was still a princess. Living in a better place wasn't a big deal. Most importantly, the moment Wen entered the room, he saw something truly luxurious. She was wearing a dark blue pleated dress with lace, and a white scarf-like floral ornament started for her shoulders and went through her chest. It was pulled all the way down to her abdomen and wrapped around it like an apron. Paired with the blue dress, it was monotonous yet irresistible. There was also a headdress on her head, and the color was also monotonous white. It was a maid outfit, and the one wearing the maid's uniform. It was a young girl with short purple hair and purple pupils. She was extremely cute and playful. Wu Yin blinked and looked at the cute little maid standing in front of him with a smile on her face. Then, he turned his head and looked at Sylvia. "She's not your maid, is she?" "She's a maid, not a maid." Sylvia frowned. She glared at Wu Yin. "Is there something you're not happy about?" No, of course not." Wu Yin shook his head. He looked at the little maid who was standing there like a doll, and he laughed. "She's not like you. She's quite cute." "What did you say?" Sylvia's eyes widened. She couldn't believe Wu Yin would say something like that. Rebecca covered her mouth and snickered. The little maid who had been pretending to be a doll also snickered and lifted the corner of her skirt. She bowed to Wu Yin. "Thank you for the compliment. I am Cosette Shirley." "Shirley." The maid who called herself Cosette tilted her head and pursed her lips into a smile. "You must be Lord Lune, right? I've heard so much about you." "My name." Wu Yin stroked his chin and glanced at Sylvia. "Don't tell me you got this name because I defeated your mistress and she badmouthed me in front of you? I'm not that despicable." Sylvia was furious. Also, Cosette isn't my maid. She's my maid. Well, well. Wu Yin waved his hand nonchalantly. It's all the same, all the same. It's not the same. Cosette's gaze wandered between Wu Yin and Sylvia. Her smile turned frivolous. Lord Lune and Her Highness are showing off their affection? Showing off their affection? Wu Yin was dumbfounded. And of course not. Sylvia's face turned red. She looked flustered and exasperated. Wu Yin was even more surprised. It can't be? So you're shy too? This time, not only did Sylvia's face turn red, even her ears turned red. Cosette, who was just joking, showed a surprised expression and smiled meaningfully. It seems like something happened between the two of you that I don't know about. I'm very curious. Nothing happened. Sylvia's rebuttal was so weak that even Rebecca was too embarrassed to continue watching. She stepped forward with a smile. Lune, Cosette isn't an ordinary maid. You'll slowly understand, not an ordinary maid? Wu Yin couldn't help but look at Cosette. Cosette smiled modestly, and he couldn't help but laugh. Well, I'll wait and see. Wu Yin walked past Sylvia and entered her room. Sylvia panicked for no reason as she chased after Wu Yin with a red face. As a knight, how dare you be so rude as to wander around someone else's room? Can't I wander around? Wu Yin looked back at Sylvia innocently and shrugged helplessly. Then, Cosette, please take me to the kitchen. Kitchen? Cosette was confused. She didn't understand why Wu Yin went to the kitchen, but she quickly put on a smile. Understood, Lord Lune. This way, please. Thank you, Cosette. You're welcome. Don't order other people's maids around. Sylvia shouted. Also, Cosette, don't be so obedient. Unfortunately, not only did Wu Yin ignore Sylvia's words, her maid also ignored her. She stood there in a daze and looked at Wu Yin and Cosette, who were talking and laughing as they walked into the kitchen. She lowered her head, and the background was dark. I'm just a princess with no dignity. Not only can I not order my guard around, even my own maids don't listen to me. Rebecca saw this scene with her own eyes, and her impression of Sylvia changed drastically. I didn't expect Princess Sylvia to be so innocent. She doesn't even know that she's being bullied. That's right, Wu Yin and Cosette have been bullying Sylvia since the start of the fight. In the kitchen, Wu Yin glanced at the luxurious scene, and his heart twitched. Should I say, as expected of the princess's kitchen? Lord Lune, do you really want to use the kitchen? Cosette looked at Wu Yin in disbelief. I thought you only wanted to bully Her Highness. I didn't expect Sylvia to have such a side to her, so I played around a little. Wu Yin smiled awkwardly at Cosette's incredulous expression. In any case, lend me the kitchen for a while. Do you want to cook? Cosette smiled kindly. If that's the case, let me do it. Well, it's a thank you gift, so I can't let you do it. Wu Yin said without turning his head. He walked into the kitchen and picked up a kitchen knife. He skillfully twirled it around the handle. Don't look at me like this. I haven't met anyone who can match me in cooking yet. Is that so? Cosette maintained a smile on his face, but his eyes were filled with distrust. Wu Yin shrugged when he saw this. Anyway, just wait and see. Wu Yin's lips curled up. Cosette suddenly had a feeling when she saw that smile. The boy in front of her seemed different from the one she met before. Chapter 1287. Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, Epona Lodge, Royal Family Room. Rebecca, Sylvia, and Cosette sat on both sides of the table and looked at the steaming and fragrant dishes on the table. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Sylvia swallowed her saliva with difficulty as she looked at the dishes on the table that looked like works of art. She looked at Wu Yin, who was standing at the side with plates of food in his hands, and asked with uncertainty, You made all of this yourself? This. Rebecca was also surprised. Isn't this a little too beautiful? That's right, beautiful. The dishes on the table were all cut into inconceivable shapes by some kind of extreme knife skill. Then, they were arranged into exquisite patterns. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were works of art. In terms of appearance alone, they were more exquisite than ordinary works of art or famous paintings. If these works of art were dishes, then Rebecca and Sylvia wouldn't be willing to eat them, even if they almost lost their composure and salivated profusely. "President, Your Highness," these were indeed made by Lord Rohan. Corset, who stood behind Sylvia, explained to the two girls with an admiring tone. "I've been watching Lord Rohan from aside. There's no mistake." After saying that, Corset looked at Wu Yin with curiosity. Even though Corset hasn't met Wu Yin before, just like when she introduced him, she's been looking forward to meeting him for a long time. In fact, it was Corset who told Sylvia that Wu Yin entered the advanced course through the back door. She originally thought that Wu Yin was just a special person. However, Corset's impression of Wu Yin had changed from special to special now. The mysterious dragon riding skill, the unknown dragon rider, the genius dragon tamer. In the short span of a day, this student who only received a negative evaluation had suddenly changed. He had countless halos on him. Now, he even made a dish that even Corset praised. Just the surface alone made her admit that she was inferior. Of course, these weren't the most important things for Corset. These were the characteristics mentioned above. Apart from being able to make good dishes, none of them could deepen her impression of Wu Yin. The most important thing was this special boy. He directly called her master by her name. Cosette, who was familiar with Sylvia, naturally knew that this was the first time Sylvia had met someone who directly called her by her name since she came to the academy. Furthermore, it seemed that Sylvia had removed her cold mask and revealed her true personality. Corset couldn't help but take note of this. Corset, who knew that Sylvia never had any friends, felt that this boy who suddenly barged into the academy might change Sylvia's life. Who knows? Wu Yin, who didn't know that Corset was thinking so deeply, placed the last dish on the table with a disapproving expression. He clapped his hands and walked into the kitchen while speaking. "No matter how beautiful the dishes are, they are all for eating. Don't be shy. Eat as much as you want. I'll go make Guffrin and Lancelot's portions first." After saying that, Wu Yin disappeared from the scene. Rebecca and Sylvia looked at each other and picked up their knives and forks in tacit understanding. They picked up a piece of meat and put it into their mouths. In the next moment, they felt an electrifying pleasure in their mouths, causing the two girls to widen their eyes and be stunned on the spot. "President? Your Highness?" Corset faintly felt that something was wrong when she saw the two girls doing something that was completely different from before. It didn't fit their image. "Pardon my rudeness." Cosette picked up the cutlery and forked the meat that Rebecca and Sylvia had just eaten. After taking a small bite, Cosette finally understood why his master and the perfect president of the student council was in such a state. So delicious. Corset blurted out from the bottom of her heart without even thinking about it. She recalled the arrogant declaration that Wu Yin made in the kitchen and now believed it. In this world, there shouldn't be anyone who could compare to him in terms of cooking. As a maid of the princess, Wu Yan's cooking is the most delicious dish she has ever tasted. She has tasted a lot of delicacies since she was a child. She can also make excellent dishes herself. Wu Yan's cooking is the most delicious dish she has ever tasted. When they came back to their senses, the three girls exchanged glances. Then Rebecca and Sylvia began to eat silently. Their movements were still graceful, but their speed was unbelievably fast. Beside her, Corset also quietly went against her principle of waiting for Sylvia to finish her meal and secretly left some food for herself. Phew, even with their graceful movements, Rebecca and Sylvia couldn't hide the contorted expressions on their faces. Wu Yin, who had just bribed Gufflin and Lancelot with food, had a hard time breaking free from their entanglements. Wu Yin couldn't help but feel embarrassed. "Although I'm very confident in my cooking, I didn't think that the perfect president of the student council and the fourth princess would become like this just because of a meal. What a surprise." Rebecca and Sylvia blushed when they heard Wu Yan's teasing words. They coughed dryly and turned their heads away, pretending like they didn't hear anything. Wu Yin couldn't help but ridicule them for it. "Forget it." Wu Yin pursed his lips, and he sat in front of Rebecca and Sylvia. He poured them a cup of black tea he just brewed. "Have some black tea. It'll make you feel better." Lebecca and Sylvia resentfully looked at the black tea. They reached out and picked up the cup. After a moment of hesitation, they took a small sip. Their eyes lit up. What a fragrant black tea. Sylvia couldn't help but praise. Lebecca looked at Wu Yin with a puzzled expression and said something that almost made Wu Yin stumble. Rune, are you really a boy? I really want to ask you why you would ask such a question. Wu Yan's mouth twitched. How can you tell that I'm not a boy? Can a boy really make such delicious food and black tea? Lebecca gave a reason that seemed reasonable, but was actually quite unreasonable. If you're a girl dressed as a boy, please don't hide it anymore. We won't look down on you. If we have time, we can go shopping and take a bath together. Wu Yan wanted to retort, but when he heard the words, take a bath together, his expression wavered, and he almost admitted that he was a girl dressed as a boy. However, to prove that he was a man, he endured the pain and forced a smile. It's best if you don't question my gender. Otherwise, I'll definitely do something irrational to prove my body. Sylvia's face flushed red once more when she heard those words. Then, she put on a stern face and snorted threateningly. If I had guards by my side right now, you would have been sent to prison for being rude to the princess. That's scary. Wu Yin pursed his lips and tapped the messy tableware in front of him. I spent so much effort to make so many dishes. I didn't think there would be people in this world who would turn their backs on me. I'm so pitiful. Who's turning their backs on me? Sylvia couldn't take it anymore. Kindness must be repaid. This is the family rule of the royal house of Lorimon. In other words, Wu Yin smirked as if he was waiting for Sylvia to say that. Your Highness, you admit that you've accepted my kindness, right? Of course. Sylvia stuttered. Speaking of which, since you're already calling me by my name, then don't call me your Highness anymore. No problem. Wu Yin agreed without hesitation. He suddenly stopped smiling and looked at Sylvia. Then, Sylvia, I have a question for you. Do you know what the Avalon Holy Dragon royal family is? Chapter 1288. Avalon's Divine Dragon Royal Family? Other than Wu Yin, everyone else was startled for a moment before a doubtful expression appeared on their faces. Avalon's Divine Dragon Royal Family. Sylvia frowned. I've never heard of such a family name before. Where is it from? No, they shouldn't be a human family. Wu Yin shook his head, and he mused for a bit before replying. It should be related to the dragon race. Related to the dragon race? This time, Lebecca and Sylvia were both surprised. Is there a family system within the dragon race? Sylvia's face was filled with confusion. I've never heard of it before. Could it be the Earth Dragon, Water Dragon, Winged Dragon, or Divine Dragon royal family? If that's the case, Roland wouldn't be asking this question. Lebecca closed her eyes with a solemn expression. Avalon's Divine Dragon royal family. Divine Dragon Emperor. Since it's related to the Dragon Emperor, it's definitely not an ordinary dragon race. Lebecca turned to Wu Yin and asked, Roland, where did you hear about this family name? It's troublesome to explain it to you. Wu Yin scratched his face and shrugged. To put it simply, I'm currently looking for information related to the Avalon's Divine Dragon royal family. I've searched the Academy's library, but I couldn't find anything. Although the Academy's library contains many books related to the Dragon Clan and the Dragon Cultivators, the truly confidential parts will not be open to the public. Lebecca crossed her arms and shook her head. Furthermore, if it's something that can be found in the Academy's library, Princess Sylvia and I would definitely know about it. Therefore, I can be sure that the Academy's library doesn't have any records of this. Then, does the Loriman's royal family and the Randall family have any records of this? Wu Yin stared at the two girls in front of him. The Randall family is a noble family with a fief. They should have some secrets that aren't on the surface, right? As for the Loriman's royal family, I'm sorry. Although I don't know if the Loria monarch family has any records of this, the Randall family doesn't have any. Lebecca said calmly. If I don't know about it, then even if I go to the Randall family to ask, no one in the family will know about it. When she said this, her tone was firm. As a Saint Dragon Knight, Lebecca was equivalent to a nobleman without a title. Although the Randall family was a famous family, There weren't many holy sky dragon knights in the history of the family. Thus, it was easy to imagine Rebecca's status in the family. Naturally, she had access to all the secrets of the Randall family. Therefore, Rebecca could say with absolute certainty that this was the case. As long as she didn't know, then no one in the Randall family would know. As for me, I don't have much confidence either. Sylvia, on the other hand, was a little uncertain. Her attitude was a little hesitant. Since it's a secret, there aren't many people in King Loriaman's family who have the right to read it. After all, it's related to the country. Even if I'm the princess, reading these state secrets is against the law. In other words, even if King Loriaman's family has records of the Avalon Saint Dragon royal family, not many people know about it. Wu Yin frowned deeply and rhythmically tapped the table. This is a little troublesome. Rebecca looked up and stared at Wu Yin for a while before asking, "Is it important to you to know about the Avalon Saint Dragon royal family?" Important? Is it important? Wu Yin nodded after a brief moment of silence. That's right. It's very important. Is that so? Rebecca stared at Wu Yan's wine-red eyes. After a while, she smiled and looked up. I understand. As the student council president of the Ansari Dragon Academy, I have quite a bit of power and authority. I will help you find information about the Avalon Saint Dragon royal family and keep an eye out for you. Hearing this, Wu Yan's eyes lit up and looked at Rebecca gratefully. Thanks, Rebecca. Well, it's a small matter. No matter what you do, you must give it your all. This is King Loriaman's family rule. Sylvia became serious. Since I owe you one, I will do my best to find information about the Avalon Saint Dragon royal family. Cosette. Before Wu Yin could react, Sylvia turned around and looked at Cosette behind her. Sorry to trouble you. Yes. Cosette lifted the corner of her skirt and bowed slightly, revealing a witty and shrewd smile. As long as it's within my ability, I will give it my all. That's good. Sylvia's serious expression relaxed a lot. Rebecca also gave Cosette a reassuring look. Wu Yin was slightly surprised and looked at Cosette. Didn't I just say? Cosette is not an ordinary maid. Seeing Wu Yin staring at Cosette, Rebecca shook her head with a smile. Cosette belongs to the Shirley family. They have been known for their combat skills and espionage skills since ancient times. They have served the Loriaman's king family for generations and are specialized in assisting the Wang family. They are the indispensable left and right hands of the Wang family. Rebecca glanced at Cosette and explained in amazement. Cosette is one of the few elites in the Shirley family. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is the most outstanding member of the Shirley family. With her help, this matter will most likely succeed. That's strong. Wu Yin smiled wryly as he stared blankly at the adorable Cosette, who had a harmless smile on her face. So that's how it is. A wise man doesn't show his true colors. You're the real boss. I've made a fool of myself. Cosette held her cheeks with both hands and fidgeted as if she was shy. However, there was a sly smile hidden in her eyes. Wu Yin, who saw this scene, clearly felt a chill in his heart. This cute maid is definitely not as naive and romantic as she looks. She might even be more two-faced than Rebecca. Just as this thought rose in Wu Yan's heart, Cosette looked at Wu Yan with a smile and muttered to herself, "Why do I feel like Lord Rune is thinking of something rude?" You're thinking too much." Wu Yan's heart clenched as he put on a fake smile. I'm just thinking about the Aries dragon ritual tomorrow. I'm not thinking of anything rude." Aries dragon ritual? Rebecca blinked her eyes. Right? Now that you can control Guffrin, you should be participating in the Aries dragon ritual, right? Controlling Guffrin to participate in the Aries dragon ritual? Before Wu Yin could react, Sylvia was startled. She turned to Wu Yin in shock. You want to control Guffrin to participate in the Aries dragon ritual? Wu Yin raised an eyebrow at Sylvia's shocked expression. Judging from your reaction, are you also participating in the Aries dragon ritual tomorrow? Also means that you admit to it? Sylvia's mind was starting to wander. Guffrin is my opponent. Oh, you're wavering, Wu Yin said with a half smile. Sylvia, Are you afraid of losing to me? Who's afraid of losing to you? Sylvia raised an eyebrow. You have to give it your all, no matter what the competition is. That's the Lorimon Wong family's motto. This is interesting. Wu Yan's eyes lit up as he looked at Sylvia with a meaningful look. Since that's the case, do you dare to make a bet with me? Bet? Sylvia was stunned. If I win tomorrow's Aries Dragon ritual, you have to agree to one of my conditions. At this moment, Wu Yan's expression is like a big bad wolf looking at a cute little bunny jumping into its mouth. Sylvia shuddered and instantly became alert. What if I win? If you win, I'll teach you the dragon riding technique and the chaotic return to horizon dance that defeated you. How about it? Sylvia's expression changed instantly. If she could learn that mystical dragon riding technique and the sword technique that could even injure the strongest holy dragon in the academy, her strength would increase by leaps and bounds. This was a huge temptation for Sylvia. Sylvia clenched her teeth. All right, it's a deal then. Wu Yan grinned. His grin is deceitful. Chapter 1289. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of fireworks exploding reverberated throughout the academy. Oh, cheers shook the entire place. Today was a rare sunny day. In terms of organizing the competition, it was undoubtedly a very suitable day. Early in the morning, many students wearing dragon riding uniforms had gathered on the sports field of the Ansari State Dragon Riding Academy. They held the reins in their hands and lined up neatly on the field with their dragons. Oh, on both sides of the sports field, there were fences that looked like spectator seats. The fences were filled with students who did not intend to participate in the Aries Dragon ritual and only wanted to watch the fun. Waves of cheers were heard, causing the surrounding air to vibrate slightly. One could imagine just how high the mood of the students was at this moment. The Aries Palace's Dragon Rider ritual was a spring celebration. Although many students did not intend to participate, their enthusiasm for the Dragon Rider ritual was even higher than those who intended to participate. Amidst the endless cheers, the students who were holding fall lined up neatly and looked forward. Over there was a temporarily built high platform that served as the main venue for the announcement of the Aries Palace's dragon sacrifice. Instructors stood on both sides of the stage. They were in charge of supervising the entire tournament. They maintained the basic rules of the tournament and didn't allow anyone to cause trouble. Backstage, Wu Yan, Sylvia, and Lebecca stood there in their dragon riding uniforms. Compared to the grinning Lebecca and the serious Sylvia, Wu Yan's expression is one of helplessness. Why do I have to go on stage and give a speech? Sylvia is the representative, isn't she? The representative has always been chosen to be the top student of the year in the past. It wasn't Lebecca who answered Wu Yan, but Sylvia. Glancing at Wu Yan, Sylvia calmly continued. But you used an earth dragon to defeat me yesterday. You should be the representative of this declaration. I should be the one who is acting strange. Why do I get the chance to give a speech? Your Highness is overthinking things. Lebecca smiled calmly. She replied slowly. Even if someone defeated Your Highness's position as the top student of the year is still unshakable. Combat isn't the only factor that determines results. What about me? Wu Yan raised his voice as if he was trying to make his presence known. Logically speaking, I'm not just a student who got in through the back door. I'm also a newbie who entered the academy less than 2 days ago. You letting me go on stage just like that? I'm afraid eggs will be thrown at me. Don't belittle yourself. Your reputation in the academy is no less than Her Highness Princess Sylvia's. Lebecca said calmly with a hint of a smile on her face. Although it was my idea to let you be the representative. So it was you. Oh, it's about time. She ignored Wu Yan's resistance. Lebecca slowly walked to the center of the stage. President Lebecca, Madam Lebecca. As Lebecca walked onto the platform, the students became more and more excited. Their cheers reverberated throughout the entire stadium, drowning out all the other noises. For a moment, the entire stadium was filled with crazed cheers from fans. Good morning, everyone. Like an unperturbed king, Lebecca appeared at the center of the stage, full of heroic spirit. Her voice wasn't very loud, but it pierced through the entire stadium, instantly silencing the noisy stadium. However, the students still looked at her with fanaticism in their eyes. After all, the person standing on the stage was the undefeatable idol of the entire academy. Seeing this, Lebecca revealed a satisfied expression. Her voice gradually reverberated through the air, reaching the ears of everyone present. Today, it's the day of the long-awaited Ares Palace Dragon Sacrifice of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. As an activity initiated by the Student Union, as the president of the Student Union, I feel honored to be able to stand on the stage and give a speech. After her speech, Lebecca looked around the stadium. Dear students, the dragon riding ritual is not just a simple sports meeting, but a fine tradition of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy and even the entire Ansari city. The results of the competition will be officially recorded and become the glory of the winner. Therefore, since you have chosen to participate in the competition, of course, I hope that your goal is to stand on this high platform and receive the award personally from me. At this point, Lebecca suddenly closed her eyes with a helpless smile on her lips. That may be the case, but I know very well that this level is not enough to stimulate everyone's will to win. Therefore, I will give a special reward to the winner this time. Special reward. The students who had been in a frenzy earlier were all stunned by this sudden speech. Seeing this, a trace of craftiness appeared in Lebecca's eyes as she spoke in a clear voice. I will give the winner of the Ares Palace Dragon Sacrifice the right to date for a day as a reward. The person of the date will naturally be me, Lebecca Randall. I'll be Lebecca Randall. The stadium suddenly fell silent. All the students stared dumbfoundedly at Lebecca, who was exuding a noble aura, as if they couldn't believe their ears. They looked at each other in dismay, as if they were suppressing something, and their faces swelled. Oh! In the next second, cheers louder than ever before filled every corner of the stadium and almost caused a riot. Silence. Lebecca's smile didn't diminish as she spoke again. The stadium returned to its original silence. Her popularity and influence made even Wu Yin sigh in admiration. Next, the representative will give a speech. Year, one of the advanced course class, Sylvia Lamia. Her Highness Princess Loriaman. Sylvia's figure appeared at the bottom of the platform as soon as she finished speaking. She slowly walked to the center of the platform with clear footsteps. Below the stage, Wu Yin frowned. When Sylvia went up to the stage, Wu Yin clearly felt. Unlike the previous high-spirited atmosphere, there was a strange heaviness in the air. However, Sylvia seemed to have not noticed at all. She looked straight ahead with a taut face, and her cold voice shook the atmosphere as it gradually reverberated in the field. You must give it your all in any competition. This is the family rule of the Loriaman family. Above. After saying that, Sylvia walked off the stage by herself. Her aggressive aura brought about a sense of nervousness. Below the stage, all the students fell silent. Not long after, there was a burst of whispers. What? She seems so amazing. Yeah, the truly outstanding one is Lancelot, not her. Is everyone from the Wong family so arrogant? I can't bear to watch this. Wu Yan's frown deepened as he looked at Sylvia, who was walking towards him. Looking at the other party's frosty face, his wine-red eyes wavered slightly. Next, let's welcome the most famous newcomer in the academy, Roland Randall. Randall. Hearing Lebecca's words, Wu Yan took a deep breath and walked up to the stage. When he passed by Sylvia, Wu Yan abruptly opened his mouth and said this. I don't like the current you at all. Sylvia's footsteps paused. Her cold face, which hadn't changed since the beginning, crumbled and turned into a complex expression. Standing at the center of the stage, Wu Yan first glanced at the smiling Lebecca, then at the contestants below before sweeping his gaze across the crowd. I won't waste any more words. Everyone. Wu Yan's lips curled up as he spoke. Come and try chasing me. If you can catch me, I'll agree to any request you make. But don't expect me to go easy on you. Hearing that, The crowd fell into a deathly silence once more. However, in the next instant, a stifling wave of enthusiasm accompanied by deafening cheers reverberated throughout the arena. Although those words sounded extremely arrogant, it was exactly what many people wanted. After all, they were still thinking about Wu Yan's miraculous dragon-riding ability. Lebecca held her forehead as if she had a headache, but the corners of her lips also curled up slightly. Sylvia stared blankly at Wu Yan, who was receiving everyone's cheers. His words echoed in her mind. She was speechless for a long time. Chapter 1290. The order of the contestants for the Ares Draconic Rite had its own rules as well. In the Ares Temple Dragon Rite, there was no such thing as a fair starting line. The starting line of the contestants was based on the results of their training sessions, and the starting line was very orderly divided into front and back. In the past, the starting line for the Ares Draconic Rite was set so that the contestant with the best results and fastest speed would be at the front, and so on. The lower the results, the slower the contestant would be at the back of the starting line. However, this year's Draconic Rite was different. The contestants at the very front weren't the ones with the best results, but the ones with the worst results. This was Lebecca's suggestion. The reason was simple: it was more exciting this way. Therefore, according to the new rules of this year's Ares Dragon Sacrificial Competition, Sylvia, who had won the first place in the mock competition, obediently lined up at the back of all the contestants on her holy dragon Lancelot. Aside from Sylvia, Wu Yan was also at the very back of the line. This is to be expected. After all, Wu Yan has only been in school for 2 days, and he hasn't participated in any mock competitions, so he doesn't have any results to speak of. However, due to the fact that he once performed a miraculous teleportation dragon riding skill during the dragon riding combat training, the students in the academy unanimously agreed that his speed isn't any lower than Sylvia's. Thus, Lebecca arranged for him to be at the very back of the line. Of course, there was another reason as well. No, way right. Outside the arena, inside the arena, everyone present, regardless of whether they were teachers or students, was staring at a huge figure in the last row of the contestants. They looked at the figure riding on top of that huge figure, and their faces were filled with shock. A fur as alluring as fresh blood. His chest and limbs were as thick as armor. His wings were completely disproportionate to his body, supporting his enormous body that seemed to be able to blot out the sun. He stood above all the dragons present, emitting a chilling sense of oppression. The strongest holy dragon in the academy, Gufflin. This was a holy dragon that everyone in the Ansari Academy and even the entire Ansari city didn't know about. It was quite famous. After all, it was the one who made Lebecca Randall famous. The most fundamental reason why the name Lebecca Randall became so famous. However, this was the Academy's strongest holy dragon. However, the one riding on it was not the most powerful person in the Academy who was full of heroic spirit, but the new student who had become a hot topic after entering the Academy for less than 2 days. Rune? Randall. The entire place was silent. Obviously, the strongest holy dragon in the academy, the perfect mount of the student council president, was being ridden by someone else. Everyone's hearts were shaken. Among them, the person who was the most shocked was undoubtedly Yashio, who was also in the last row. Riding Bridget, which he borrowed from Raymond, Yashio looked at Guffrin floating above everyone and Wu Yin riding on Guffrin's head. Yashio's heart was in a state of shock and didn't calm down for a long time. Yashur was also known as a genius dragon tamer. But Yashio asked himself honestly, there was no way he could be like Wu Yin. Tame Guffrin. Not to mention Gyuvlin, Yashur didn't even have the confidence to ride an immature holy dragon like Lancelot. Until now, he had only ridden an earth dragon, a winged dragon, and a water dragon. All of a sudden, Wu Yan's image in Yashur's heart grew. Compared to Yashur, Sylvia, who already knew about this matter, was calm and collected. She restrained her emotions and slowly suppressed the complicated emotions in her heart. She began to concentrate. Sylvia didn't know if she could win. But in order to prove herself and fulfill her promise with Wu Yin, Sylvia would give it her all. Contestants in position. Rebecca's voice came from the stage, waking up the audience from their stupor. She held the short gun in her hand and raised it high into the sky. The audience began to hold their breaths. A strange tension pervaded the air. A suffocating silence enveloped the entire place. Only the agitation of the hearts and the breathing of the dragons could be heard. The surroundings were silent. Ready, Rebecca wore a calm smile and closed her eyes. Then, she abruptly opened them. Bang! A dazzling flash lit up the sky and a dull gunshot echoed. Charge! In the next moment, every contestant's expression froze, and they began to run at the same time. Bringing with them a thick cloud of dust and a bugle horn, they charged forward. Roar! The earth dragons roared and charged forward. The ground shook under their stomps. Roar! The pterosaurs flapped their wings and flew into the sky. Walala! One by one, the water dragons rushed into the waterway not far away, raising waves of water as they disappeared from everyone's sight. The sight of nearly 100 dragons fighting to be the first to enter the arena shook the hearts of everyone present. Oh! Amidst the loud cheers, every dragon passed through the gates of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy and entered the city center of Ansari. Due to the differences in the dragon race, the earth dragons, pterosaurs, and water dragons had different runways. The student council made a very detailed rule about the runways. Otherwise, the pterosaurs, who had the advantage of flying, would have a much better chance of victory than the earth dragons that could only run on the ground and the water dragons that could only swim in the waterways. Thus, for the sake of balance, the pterosaurs, earth dragons, and water dragons had different runways. They would only overlap when they reached a certain path or a section of the path before the final destination. However, the conditions were not unfair. Thus, every contestant's conditions were basically the same. It was just that it depended on their individual circumstances. In this Ares dragon sacrifice, the only two holy dragons were naturally on the pterosaurs' runways. The most basic ability of holy dragons was flight. No matter if they were pterosaurs, earth dragons, or water dragons before they evolved, they would all have wings and could fly after evolving into holy dragons. However, compared to the pterosaurs that could also fly, Guilin and Lancelot's speed was undoubtedly astonishing. Not only were they fast and powerful, even their stamina was superior to other dragons. If there was something unfair about this Ares dragon sacrifice, it would be these two holy dragons that were out of the norm. Or rather, Guilin, who far surpassed Lancelot in size, growth, and combat strength, was the real cheat. Moreover, the one riding it was Wu Yin. In the blink of an eye, Guilin overtook all the other contestants. They could only stare blankly at Guilin, who had turned into a streak of red lightning and was speeding along the runways. Lancelot was the only one who could barely keep up. Roar! Perhaps it was because he hadn't participated in this kind of competition for a long time. Guilin let out an excited roar. His speed once again increased by a few notches, and he fiercely left Lancelot, who was following behind him, in the dust. Wu Yin bitterly laughed when he saw this. You're this excited just by participating in a competition? How did Rebecca torture you? Roar! Roar! Guilin let out another roar, but the meaning was unclear. However, its speed increased again. It was clearly fully immersed in the competition. Well, go ahead and do your best. Wu Yin patted Guilin's dragon horn and turned to look behind him. About 20 meters away in the sky, Lancelot is also trying his best to increase his speed. Wu Yin could see Sylvia's sweaty expression. Perhaps she felt Wu Yin's gaze. Sylvia lifted her head and met his gaze. Then, she saw Wu Yin's half-smile, which made her angry. Lancelot! Sylvia immediately cried out. Don't lose to him. I can lose to anyone, but not to him. Roar! Lancelot seemed to be able to sense its master's anger. With a roar, it channeled all its magic into its wings and flapped them hard. Oh, you still haven't given up? Wu Yin let Guilin do his thing. Wu Yin raised an eyebrow and he laughed out loud. Lancelot, if you lose, I'll make the best dish for you." Lancelot's roar seemed to be stuck in its throat. It couldn't come out. Lancelot had just eaten Wu Yan's dishes yesterday, so this sentence caused its heart to waver. It couldn't help but slow down. Wah! Sylvia's eyes widened as she shouted in exasperation. "You despicable person! Ha! In the sky, a man and a woman, one large and one small. Two holy dragons streaked across the sky like meteors, bringing with them Wu Yan's laughter and Sylvia's angry roar as they flew towards the finish line." Chapter 1291. Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, Sports Field. On the high platform, Lebecca revealed a breathtakingly beautiful smile, her heroic voice reverberating through the entire arena. The winner of this year's Ares Dragon Riding Festival, first year of the advanced class, Roland Randall. Oh, the group of students looked at Wu Yan standing beside Lebecca and cheered enthusiastically. Of course, there were also many voices of envy and jealousy mixed in. After all, the winner of this year's Ares Dragon Riding Festival would be able to get a date with the student council president Lebecca. How could the male students who viewed Lebecca as their goddess and the female students who looked up to her not be envious and jealous? Thus, the cheers that resounded throughout the field had a hint of jealousy that everyone could clearly sense. In the beginning, there was even a hint of powerlessness that made people smile bitterly. Sigh. Under everyone's intense gaze, Wu Yan faintly sighed. Just how many times had he encountered such a situation? Wu Yan had already lost count and didn't have the energy to count. After all, being glared at a few times wouldn't cause him to lose a piece of flesh. On the other hand, a gaze filled with resentment from below the stage made Wu Yan's lips curl into a smile. He glanced down and saw Sylvia clenching her fists and gnashing her teeth as she looked at him. Despicable fellow, shameless fellow. Sylvia's domineering appearance was completely different from before. She didn't have a cold expression on her face. Instead, she was like a resentful woman holding Lancelot's reins as she kept nagging. "Since you used such a method, don't think I'll be satisfied." Ugh. On the side, Lancelot couldn't help but let out an aggrieved whimper. His dragon eyes were filled with pity. Although at the beginning, Lancelot did indeed slow down due to Wu Yan's enticing words, it only slowed down for a short few seconds. Later on, Lancelot got rid of all distracting thoughts and focused on flying. But in the end, Lancelot still couldn't defeat the strongest in the academy, Holy Dragon Gufflin. He was defeated without any suspense. However, Sylvia seemed to think that Lancelot had been tempted by Wu Yan's feeding attack, which led to his defeat. That's why the Grand Princess Blue Ice, the fourth princess of the Night Kingdom of Lorimon, is acting like a resentful wife. Regarding this, not only did Wu Yan not avoid the edge of the spear, he did the exact opposite. A provocative smile appeared on her face as she looked down at Sylvia, her mouth twitching a few times. He didn't say anything, but Sylvia read his lips. "Don't forget our promise." Sylvia was instantly enraged, but there was nothing she could do. She could only glare hatefully at Wu Yan, who was smiling proudly on the high platform. She closed her eyes and turned her head away. "Out of sight, out of mind. You're angry just like that?" Wu Yan sighed as if he expected better from him. "What a child. You're the only one who dares to treat Her Highness Princess Sylvia like that in the entire Raymond knighthood." Lebecca rolled her eyes and said in annoyance, "If Her Highness Princess Sylvia really wants to cause trouble for you, you're in big trouble." "I can't see the trouble. I can only see the benefits," Wu Yan muttered as he stroked his chin. "Even though I've already thought of what I'll get Sylvia to do for me, it's a bit of a loss. Should I think of something else?" "Something else?" Lebecca blinked and revealed a meaningful expression. "Sylvia isn't the only one who can benefit from winning the competition." Wu Yan was stunned. When he saw Lebecca's meaningful expression, he remembered that as the winner, he could go on a date with her. Wu Yan's lips twitched at the thought. "What?" Lebecca put on a seductive look in front of everyone. She whispered into Wu Yan's ear, and she blew at him. Could it be? You're not happy about going on a date with me? I'm just having a headache. Wu Yin suppressed his heartbeat and coughed as he felt the ticklish sensation in his ear. He looked away awkwardly. I'm not familiar with Ansari City at all. I don't know where to take you on a date. You don't have to worry about that. Lebecca's eyes revealed a hint of a smile. I like to take the initiative, so let me guide you. Initiative? Guide? Which aspect? This time, Wu Yin was no longer trying to suppress his heartbeat. Instead, his imagination was running wild. At this moment, Lebecca, below the high platform, an instructor panted heavily as he ran over while shouting with an anxious expression on his face. There's one more participant who hasn't returned. There's one more participant who hasn't returned? Wu Yin, Lebecca, and even Sylvia were stunned. Lebecca frowned. What's the meaning of this? It's been an hour since the end of the competition, but there's still one participant who hasn't returned. The instructor panted and said, in the forest, a security officer found the contestant's earth dragon, but the rider was not there. It's very likely that an accident happened. Lebecca's expression changed slightly as she spoke. Form a rescue team and head to the forest immediately. Yes, sir. He was clearly an instructor, but at this moment, he was following the orders of his student, Lebecca. It was very strange. I'll go too. Lebecca turned her gaze to the instructor. What's the name of the missing rider? It's the problematic student who rode someone else's fall in the competition. His name is Yashur Blake. It's Yashur Blake. It's him. Lebecca and Sylvia were shocked. Yashur? Wu Yan's expression froze before darkening. Yashur had only been in the academy for 2 days, but he was the only person in Wu Yan's class other than Sylvia and Raymond. He could be considered half a friend. Wu Yan was also concerned about Yashur's belongings. He didn't want anything to happen to Yashur. Lebecca. Wu Yan turned around to look at Lebecca. Let me join the rescue team as well. All right. Lebecca hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. Come with me on Guffrin and we'll search the forest. I'll go too. Sylvia stood up and glanced at Wu Yan with a solemn expression. It's the duty of the royal family to help citizens in trouble. It's also the teachings of the royal family. President Lebecca, please let me join. I understand. Seeing Sylvia's solemn expression, Lebecca found it hard to refuse. Then, Your Highness, please ride Lancelot. We'll split up and search the forest. Sylvia nodded solemnly. Above Fianna Forest, kneeling on one knee above Gufflin's head, Wu Yan and Lebecca held the dragon horn in one hand and his hair in the other. Gufflin used a magic formation as a foothold for them to stand on as they soared above the forest. Sylvia rode Lancelot to the other side of the forest while Wu Yan and Rebecca searched the other side of the forest. They searched the entire Fianna Forest with the other rescue teams. How is it? Rebecca didn't shy away from Wu Yan. She asked Wu Yan, did you find anything? No. Wu Yan shook his head. He tried to divert his attention away from Lebecca's soft body and the sweet scent wafting into his nose. I didn't find anything. This is troublesome. Lebecca frowned. Yashur? Blake, did something happen to him? I don't know. Wu Yan smiled bitterly. Even if something happened, we have to find him. If he's alive, we have to see him. If he's dead, we have to see his corpse. That's true. Lebecca smiled bitterly as well. Gufflin. Wu Yan lowered his head and he shouted at Gufflin. Did you find anything? Roar. Wu Yan just wanted to give it a try. Who knew that Gu Feline would suddenly stop in midair? He turned around and flew forward as if he was being pulled by some kind of force. Seeing this, Rebecca was surprised. Looks like Guffrin found something. Wu Yan didn't answer. Instead, he looked in the direction Guffrin flew with a glint in his eyes. He could feel that there was a very strange power that was sprouting there. Chapter 1292. In the sky, a red streak of light shot over from the distant horizon and appeared above a canyon. Lebecca stood on the magic formation above Guffrin's head and slowly opened her eyes. She couldn't help but close them due to Guffrin's extreme speed. There was still a trace of lingering fear on her face. There was no helping it. Guffrin didn't listen to Lebecca's orders at all and flew over at his fastest speed. He didn't care about his master at all. If it wasn't for Wu Yin grabbing her shoulder, she would have been flung away long ago. Guffrin, Lebecca took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. Why didn't you listen to my orders? Don't blame Guffrin. Wu Yin swept his gaze over the canyon below. There seems to be something under this canyon. Guffrin must have sensed it. That's why he's acting so strangely. Under the canyon? Lebecca was taken aback. She lowered her head and looked at the valley below. This is the outskirts of Fianna Forest? Who knows? Well, who knows? Wu Yin shrugged and narrowed his wine-red eyes. However, I'm a bit concerned about the thing inside. Me too. Lebecca nodded solemnly. This is the first time Guffrin didn't listen to my orders. There must be something else under the canyon. Finished. Lebecca turned her gaze to Wu Yin. When their eyes met, Wu Yin immediately nodded. Let's go down and take a look. Lebecca hesitated for a moment. She seemed a bit apprehensive about going alone. However, in the end, she couldn't bear to return empty-handed. She clenched her teeth and agreed. Guffrin, roar. Guffrin let out a small dragon's roar. He flapped his wings and descended into the canyon below. The canyon wasn't very wide, and with Guffrin's huge body, it could barely fit inside. He was barely able to squeeze in. Under Rebecca's careful instructions, Madame Guvelin slowly descended along the cliff in the middle of the canyon, almost touching the sharp rocks on his body. His body was wrapped in a layer of mana, so his movements were extremely slow. Fortunately, the deeper they went into the canyon, the more space there was, the larger the space inside. In the end, the space here was enough for Guvelin to land with ease. Lebecca hurriedly had Guffrin speed up. It continued to descend. Just as Wu Yin, Lebecca, and Guvelin were about to reach the ground, a sweet female voice that they had never heard before rang out from the bottom of the canyon. The voice turned into an echo that clearly reached their ears. I am your owner. As this voice rang out, the entire canyon fell into a deathly silence. Not long after, a voice filled with astonishment rang out. Huh. Hearing the astonished voice, Wu Yin and Lebecca's eyes lit up. It's Yashio, Wu Yin affirmed. This is Yashure's voice. Is it really Yashur? Blake's voice. Lebecca perked up and patted Guvelin's dragon horn. Guvelin, go down. You. However, Guvelin disobeyed Lebecca's order again. His huge body seemed to be frozen in the air. He only let out a slightly fearful roar before falling silent. Guvelin, Lebecca's face was filled with confusion when Guvelin disobeyed her order again. Wu Yin bitterly smiled and patted her shoulder. There must be something below that forced Guvelin to disobey your order. Don't mind it too much, I understand. Rebecca retracted her dazed expression and regained her composure. But how are we going to go down? Hug me, huh? This time, it was Lebecca's turn to be astonished. In exchange, Wu Yin looked annoyed. Are you going to hug me or not? You're not going to hug me and go down by yourself? Lebecca panicked slightly when she heard that. She extended her hands out of reflex and hugged the body that was inches away from her. Only when she felt the scorching heat from his body did Lebecca realize what she had done. Her face actually blushed, which was a rare sight for her. Wu Yin focused his attention on the bottom of the canyon. He casually grabbed Lebecca's slender waist and jumped down. The whistling wind blew past her ears, and only then did Lebecca realize what kind of situation she was in. Wu Yin actually jumped down the canyon. Lebecca couldn't help but close her eyes. Her arms around Wu Yan's waist tightened subconsciously. She only opened her eyes when the wind disappeared. Lebecca was a little surprised when she finally felt her feet on solid ground. She looked around her and took in the scenery around her. Finally, she cast her gaze to the front. But when she did, she froze on the spot. Let alone Lebecca, even Wu Yin was stunned. In front of the two of them, a man and a woman were standing there as if they were confronting each other, staring at each other as if they did not notice that someone was approaching. The man was the missing Yaksu. As for the woman, she was a petite girl. She was about 14 or 15 years old. Her face was as delicate as a doll's, and she was only about 1.5 meters tall. Her breasts were only slightly bulging. The girl had long pink hair that resembled cherry blossoms. It emitted a gentle glow under the canyon. Her white and smooth skin also flickered with a pearl-like luster. She was astonishingly white. Of course, this wasn't the most shocking part. What was truly shocking and what stunned Wu Yin and Lei Becca was that the girl was completely naked. Yes, she was completely naked. Luoang, President Lei Becca. Only now did Yaksa notice Wu Yin and Lei Becca's arrival. A trace of joy appeared on his face, and he called out happily, waking up Wu Yin and Lei Becca from their daze. Wow! Lei Becca let out a small cry of surprise. Then, a smile appeared on her face as if she was watching a play. Others have been painstakingly searching for you outside, worried that something might have happened to you. Who would have thought that you would be hiding in a place like this, alone with a naked girl? It seems that I have to reevaluate my impression of you. Yashio. Wu Yin looked at Yashio with an expressionless face. His tone was devoid of emotion. I'm sorry to disturb you. With that, Wu Yin grabbed Lei Becca's hand, turned around, and pretended to leave. This made Yaksu pale with fright. Wait. This is a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. She's my fall. She was just born. Fall? Wu Yin suddenly stopped. Lei Becca frowned and looked at Yaksu with distrust. She pointed at the girl. You're saying that she's your fall? Yes. Yaksu nodded. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. She just came out of my body and became independent. There's no mistake about it. Hey, what do you mean by born from your body? Wu Yin and Lei Becca didn't react to Yaksu's words. The girl glared at Yaksu, and she yelled at him in a very shrewd manner. I'm just borrowing your body. Don't get carried away. After being yelled at by the girl, Yashur's neck shrunk, and he muttered, What's wrong with being a little proud? What did you say? The girl's gaze turned fierce, and she tilted her head slightly. When the girl raised her head, Wu Yin and Lei Becca saw 2 round protrusions on the sides of the girl's head. The protrusions gave off a soft glow like ivory. That's... Lei Becca's face was filled with shock. The horns of a young dragon. Isn't it? Everyone says she's a dragon. Seeing that Lei Becca finally understood him, Yaksu beamed with joy. He glanced at the girl and hurriedly looked away, blushing. In any case, President Lei Becca, please let her put on some clothes first. Huh? Why'd I have to put on clothes? Unfortunately, not only did the girl not appreciate his kindness, she even puffed out her chest without concealing anything. Clothes are just something created by humans to hide their ugly nature. The honorable dragon race doesn't need that kind of thing. I don't care if you need them or not. Just let me put them on. Lei Becca smiled as she watched Yaksu and the girl confront each other again. She felt a headache coming on. Wu Yin, who didn't say anything, stared at the girl who was punching and kicking Yaksu and frowned. Chapter 1293. Ugh, I'm so tired. I'm going to sleep. Wait, that bed is mine. What? You're fighting over a bed with your owner? Since when did you become my owner? Besides, if I give you the bed, where am I going to sleep? Oomph. Aren't you a pet? A pet should sleep on the floor and watch the door. Go lie down there. Who's a pet? You're so noisy. I'm going to stomp you flat. Even if you say that. Wah. Don't suddenly take off your clothes. I told you that a noble dragon doesn't need clothes. So shut your mouth. Well, the demonic noise seeped through the walls and ravaged his ears. Lying on the bed, Wu Yin clutched his head in pain. He almost went hysterical. It was only now that Wu Yin realized Yashu's room was right next to his. Why am I so unlucky? Wu Yin wanted to cry, but had no tears. He pulled the blanket over his head and tried to reduce the noise. Unfortunately, neither Yashu nor his humanoid fall were louder than normal people. His efforts were futile. If this continued, he wouldn't even have a moment of peace, let alone sleep. He rudely kicked away the blanket covering his body. He resisted the urge to go next door and throw the guy and the girl out of the dormitory. He gnashed his teeth and spat out a resentful voice. I'm starting to hate this academy's board of directors. Although it was just a matter of today, the most troublesome problem student in the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy was Yashur. Blake had met with an accident during the Ares Dragon ritual, but it was a blessing in disguise. The news of the birth of Fall in his body quickly spread throughout the entire academy. It was natural. Everyone also knew that Yashu's Fall, who had refused to be born for so long, was now born as a young girl in this world. The entire Ansari Dragon Riding Academy was in an uproar. Let's not talk about what the students of the academy thought about this matter, but the higher-ups of the academy almost quarreled over this matter. The reason was naturally the problem of how to deal with Yaksabur. After all, Ya's Fall wasn't just a dragon. Moreover, she was a young girl. Should he let her live in a dormitory like an ordinary young girl and live a human life? Or should he let her be sent to the dragon house and be managed like the other dragons? This problem was truly a headache. The entire staff of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy was divided into two factions during the meeting. They argued for an entire day, and in the end, the Academy Council made the decision to temporarily allow Pulav Yashur to live in the dormitory like a normal person. But Ashur himself had to take care of her. Because of this, Yashur's Fall moved into Apollo's abode and lived in the same room as Yashur. At the same time, Wu Yan's nightmare began. Looking at the ceiling, Wu Yan's eyes were lifeless. After a long time, he sighed faintly. It's rare for a nocturnal creature like me to feel sleepy tonight. Now, it's impossible for me to sleep. In that case, why don't you have a chat with me, Lord Rune? As soon as Wu Yan finished, a voice suddenly rang out from Wu Yan's room. It startled Wu Yan. He quickly looked for the source of the voice, and his brows twitched. Lord Rune, he saw, on the ceiling of the room. A cute maid with short purple hair wearing a not-so-plain maid uniform was hanging upside down like a ninja. She had a polite smile on her face. When Wu Yan looked at her, she jumped down from the ceiling, patted her skirt, and bowed. Her movements were extremely elegant. Good evening. No matter how I look at it, no one would think that I'm having a good evening, right? The corner of Wu Yan's mouth twitched a few times, and he said weakly, compared to that, I'm more curious about when you arrived. Corset, I just arrived. Corset raised a finger and winked playfully. So, Lord Rune, you don't have to worry about me finding out that you're doing something shameful in bed. Compared to me, but doing something shameful, aren't you? Wu Yan put on a fake smile. Breaking into the boys' dormitory in the middle of the night and being alone with a man like me. Aren't you afraid of being taken advantage of? Corset's eyes widened when she heard Wu Yan's words. She seemed to be surprised. I'm just a maid. Why would Lord Rune fall for me? It seems that you're unaware of your charm. Wu Yan was a little speechless. Putting aside her status, Corset was indeed a very cute person. Although she wasn't as perfect as Rebecca or as elegant as Sylvia, no one would think that she was weaker than Rebecca or Sylvia in terms of appearance. However, judging from Corset's behavior just now, she probably didn't even notice it herself. Forget it. Getting up from the bed, Wu Yan patted his cheeks and looked at Corset. You must have something important to tell me so late at night, right? It's nothing important. I'm just reporting something that Lord Rune asked me to investigate. Investigate? Wu Yan's eyes lit up, and his expression became excited. Is it about Avalon's Holy Dragon royal family? Yes. Corset nodded, but her expression wasn't very happy. Even her smile was gone. Unfortunately, Lord Rune, there isn't much progress on the matter you requested. There aren't even many words related to it. There are only a few records of a dragon similar to the Holy Dragon Emperor in some ancient legends, but Avalon didn't mention a single word about it. I think it would be difficult to find any information related to Avalon's Holy Dragon royal family in Loriman's knighthood. Perhaps Loriman's royal family has important secrets, but investigating this information is against the law. Even I can't do anything about it. At this point, Corset's expression became a little apathetic. She was probably apologetic that she wasn't useful. Although her behavior was somewhat helpless, Corset was indeed a very kind-hearted little maid. All right, it's fine if you can't find anything. Don't take it to heart. Even though he was a little disappointed, Wu Yin still spoke softly. You managed to find some clues in just one day. Even if it's just a legend, it's already very impressive. Before this, I didn't even find a single word related to it. Shirley's family is good at spying, and this is why I came to Lord Rune. Corsette shook her head. Then her expression turned serious. Since even I can't find any clues related to the Avalon Holy Dragon royal family, it proves that this Avalon Holy Dragon royal family is definitely not ordinary. Their involvement might even exceed the level of what the Knight's Kingdom can bear. Corsette, please be bold enough to say that if Sir Laurent still wants to continue investigating the Avalon Holy Dragon royal family, please reconsider. If something goes wrong, Loriamon's knighthood might be involved. When that happens, both Lord Rune and Corsette will be guilty. Looking at the serious expression on Corsette's face, Wu Yin became silent. At first glance, Corsette's words sounded like she was exaggerating. After all, she said something like, "Even I don't have it." Clearly, Corsette was very confident in her ability. In this case, it was not unreasonable for Corsette to come here and give him a reminder. Avalon's Holy Dragon royal family might be involved in many aspects, but Wu Yin wasn't going to give up. After all, this was his dungeon mission, wasn't it? I understand. Wu Yin smiled at Corsette. I'll proceed with caution. Thank you very much. Corsette smiled again. She lifted her skirt and bowed to Wu Yin. Then, I'll take my leave first. If Lord Rune needs my help, please don't hesitate. I will. Wu Yin shrugged, and he teased her. Then, I'll have to trouble you to come to me in the middle of the night. Remember to bring me some benefits. I'll think about it. Corsette smiled mischievously. Then her body turned into a shadow and disappeared. A cheating maid. Wu Yin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 1294. In the following days, Wu Yin began to live a leisurely and busy life. The end of the Ares Dragon sacrificial rite caused the academy life of the Ansari State Dragon Riding Academy to start moving forward. Under such circumstances, Wu Yin began to live the same life as every other student in the academy. Every day, he would go to the classroom to attend theoretical classes related to dragon breeding or participate in actual combat exercises with a group of students. He would learn all kinds of dragon riding skills and enrich his experience and knowledge of riding dragons. He lived a very peaceful life. With perfect memory, Wu Yin would be able to get full marks in every theory class he attended. With endless martial training, Wu Yin's dragon riding skills were unmatched in the entire academy. With these two aspects added together, Wu Yin's grades gradually climbed up, and he quickly became the first in the school year. At this point, the negative evaluation of Wu Yin completely disappeared from the Ansari Dragon Academy. Now, what Wu Yin left behind in the Ansari Dragon Academy could not be considered a legend nor a miracle. However, his reputation was no longer below the famous true Red Empress Lebecca and Blue Ice Princess Sylvia. The skyrocketing theoretical results and miraculous dragon riding skills gradually raised Wu Yin's reputation. In the Ansari Dragon Academy, he was basically the same as Lebecca and Sylvia. No one didn't mention him. Furthermore, he was far superior to the genius dragon tamer, Yashu, who was known as the problematic student, above Blake. Now, even the people in the Ansari city had more or less heard of Wu Yin's deeds. Now, in the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, if someone were to ask who the strongest person in the academy was, there would definitely be someone who would answer Lebecca. If someone were to ask who the person with the highest status in the academy was, it would definitely be Sylvia. But if someone were to ask who the most talented person in the academy was, it would definitely be the genius dragon tamer Yashu. It would be Wu Yin. Therefore, Wu Yin also got a nickname in the Ansari University's Dragon Riding Academy. He was known as the Rider of the God Race. It meant that the talent of the rider was no longer in the category of humans, but a performance that could only be possessed by a true god. Of course, it would be an exaggeration to say that he was comparable to a god. However, to be able to rise from a cheating student to the top of the school year in less than a month. He even had such a miraculous dragon riding skill. Even the Academy's strongest holy dragon Guflin had been tamed by him. These feats shocked the students more than just a little bit. Naturally, even the evaluation of the students was upgraded exaggeratedly. But it was undeniable. Wu Yin had indeed received everyone's approval and no longer had any negative comments. What was worth mentioning was that under Wu Yan's stimulation, Sylvia had also been frantically learning and improving her dragon riding skills. Under such hard work, Lancelot had also grown a lot, and his strength had improved significantly. As for Wu Yan, while he was doing his duty as a student, he was observing Yak from a close distance. This Yak was referring to Yahu's fall who maintained her human form. She was also the petite pink-haired girl at the bottom of the canyon that day. The reason for observing Yak was simple, because Wu Yin suspected that this dragon girl who defied common sense and maintained her human form was very likely related to the holy dragon imperial family of Avalon that he was looking for. Wu Yin had the bloodline of the true ancestor, and had a bloodline level far above humans and dragons. It was also because of this that normal dragons would accept his control, and even the holy dragon would show him respect. After recognizing Wu Yin, they made an exception and allowed him to ride, just like Guflin. However, Yak, this girl who looked even weaker than the weakest dragon, not only ignored the faint bloodline pressure on her body, she was completely unaffected by it, and would even roar at him with a face full of arrogance sometimes. The respect that normal dragons had for Wu Yin could not be seen from this girl at all. This alone was enough to make Wu Yin suspicious. Maybe it's because AI Ku is too weak. She's as weak as a human. She couldn't sense the bloodline pressure coming from Wu Yin. But there was one time when AI Ku told him about it in front of him. It feels like you're a little different from normal, stupid, ignorant, and stupid humans. The moment he heard this, Wu Yin immediately had this thought in his mind. While ignoring her own bloodline pressure, she could more or less feel something different about it. This Yak was definitely not normal. With this in mind, Wu Yin began to observe Yak, and conveniently asked Yahu about his participation in the youth ritual. If he could prove that Yak was the last descendant of the holy dragon imperial family of Avalon, then Wu Yin could basically use the bullet of 12, Yod Bet. When he went to Yahu's youth ritual, he could carry out his own dungeon mission. Of course, this was a story for later. Today, the weather was clear. Wu Yin and Yahu had just finished their classes. They walked together and headed to the office of the student council. This was because Lebecca had come directly to the first grade classroom of the advanced class in the morning and made a declaration amidst the uproar. Rune, Randall, Yahu, Blake, come to the student council office after school. I have something to talk to you about. And so, under the envious and jealous gazes of their good friend Ramon, Wu Yin and Yaksa left everyone else and went to the student council office. The student council office was located at the top of the central tower of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy. Although it was not very big, the layout was more luxurious than the dean's office. Just the door alone gave off the feeling of a famous museum or conference room. Standing in front of the magnificent door, Yashu fidgeted around nervously. He glanced at Wu Yin, who didn't seem to care about anything, and he couldn't help but feel sad. Ever since the establishment of the Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, the student council had great power. Not only could they interfere with the matters of the Academy Council, they could also obtain a seat in the Ansari City Council. The authority of the student council president was above the mayor. Moreover, the student council president was the famous Empress Shunhong. To a commoner like Yahu, it was natural for him to feel restrained. At this moment, Yahu was surprised by Wu Yan's casual attitude. After all, Randall was Lebecca. Everyone in the academy knew about Randall's guard. Didn't he need to be more respectful? You're already here? Then come in. While Yashio was still thinking about this, an extremely elegant and beautiful voice reverberated in his ears from within the door, causing Yashio to be completely startled. Even his body trembled. You. Seeing Yahu's reaction, Wu Yin shook his head with a smile. Be more casual. Don't look at Lebecca. She's very friendly. If you're too restrained, she'll be unhappy. After speaking, Wu Yin opened the door and walked into the student council office. Yahu was stunned and quickly followed. Walking into the office, the first thing Wu Yin and Yahoo saw was the owner of this place. Lebecca stood in the center of the office with her hands crossed in front of her ample chest. She looked at the two people who walked in with a smile on her face. Her beauty and fiery red hair complemented each other, creating a terrifying aura. Her voluptuous body was full of curves, emitting an unconcealable temptation. Even if it wasn't the first time Yahoo saw this breathtaking beauty, he still felt his heart tighten. Lebecca was a legend. Not only did she have extraordinary beauty, she was also a famous holy sky dragon knight. She was a powerhouse respected by everyone in the entire Ansari state. Her fame spread throughout every territory of the Night Kingdom of Loria. Even the most famous and honorable Lorraine Kingdom's Sacred Sky Dragon Knights only had 10% of their members who were Sacred Sky Dragon Knights. Lebecca was able to achieve such fame at such a young age. One could imagine what kind of position she had in the hearts of ordinary students. Yahoo was definitely not an ordinary student. His title of Genius Dragon Tamer was spread to every corner of the academy. However, he was only a commoner. Even if he had the title of Genius Dragon Tamer, he was only an ordinary student. In front of Lebecca, he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Noticing this, Lebecca chuckled and lowered her voice. "You're welcome. Take a seat." "Yes." Yasha hesitated for a bit before walking over. Wu Yin couldn't help but bitterly chuckle. He's even more bashful than a girl. Chapter 1295. Inside the student council office, Lebecca opened up the tea set and the teapot. She smiled at Wu Yin and Yashu who were sitting across from her. "Is black tea okay?" Not only did Yashu's expression stiffen, even Wu Yin didn't look too happy about it. "Lebecca, if I remember correctly, this is the student council office. What are you trying to do by making it look like a restaurant? Isn't it great?" Lebecca smiled mockingly. "There was once a restaurant that wanted me to be their waiter for a day. Unfortunately, I rejected them. Now that I think about it, I missed the chance to experience being a waiter." The famous true Red Empress went to be a waiter? Wu Yin blinked. He couldn't help but picture Lebecca wearing a waitress uniform and her cute face. He replied without hesitation, "Of course." As soon as he said that, Lebecca gave Wu Yin a knock on the head. "I'm sure that your imagination is different from a proper waiter's." Wu Yin face-bombed when he heard that. His expression turned a bit bitter. "Didn't you say it was great?" "I'm talking about the experience of being a waiter, not being a female lead in your delusional imagination. Come up with some weird imaginations." You know that too." "Oh, so there really is." "Ahaha. That." Yashu raised his hand weakly when he saw Wu Yin and Lebecca leaving him behind and showing off their love. "President Lebecca, you called me. You called us here. Is there something you need?" "Well, it's just some trivial matters. I hope you can relax." Lebecca seemed to have realized that she was playing around with a boy. She coughed and stopped smiling. She went straight to the topic. "That part of yours is called Ache, right? How is she now?" "Ache." Yashu was stunned. He scratched his face. He answered with some uncertainty. "It should be considered very good, right?" "Should?" Lebecca raised her eyebrows, causing Yaksu, who had just relaxed, to tense up again. He hurriedly explained, "Because I can't bring Yak to class, and I can't leave her alone in the boys' dormitory." In the end, Rune said he would help me. He wanted to see if he could find someone to take care of her. "I don't know how Yak is doing." "Find someone to take care of her?" Rebecca looked at Wu Yin and received a nod from Wu Yin. "I asked Cosette to take care of Yak. She has nothing to do during Sylvia's classes anyway." "Cosette?" Lebecca nodded in relief. "So that's how it is. Then I can be at ease." Despite saying that, Rebecca's gaze turned sharp. She glared at Wu Yin, who was about to grab the tea. Wu Yin froze in midair. He froze in midair, and his body stiffened. Lebecca narrowed her eyes and stared at Wu Yan's face. When she saw Wu Yan's unnatural expression, she revealed a meaningful expression. "Your relationship with Cosette seems to have improved by quite a bit. Why would you think that?" Lebecca clearly didn't have any special relationship with him, and he didn't develop any unspeakable feelings with Cosette. However, when Lebecca asked that question, Wu Yin felt an inexplicable sense of guilt, causing a trace of a smile to appear in Lebecca's eyes. It seems that when I didn't know, as a guard, you seem to have hidden something from me. Seeing Lebecca's sudden display of aggression, Wu Yin couldn't sit still and turned his head away. He kept recalling in his mind, what did I do to anger Lebecca to make her like this? Oomph. Lebecca lightly snorted when she saw Wu Yin remaining silent. She sat back down and cast her gaze at Yashur. She coldly asked, "Do you want to join the student council?" The sudden invitation stunned Yashur, who had stayed out of the matter. He didn't react for a long time. "Join the student council?" Yashur stupidly muttered. When Lebecca nodded in confirmation, Yashur panicked. "As president, you're not joking, right?" "No." Lebecca's emerald eyes rippled with seriousness. "I'm very serious. But Yashur was completely flustered. "My theoretical results aren't that good. My actual combat results were obtained by riding someone else's fall. Is it all right for someone like me to join the student council?" "You're underestimating yourself too much." Lebecca shook her head slightly. Just being able to ride someone else's fall is already an amazing ability. Even I can't do that, but you've done it. It proves that you're capable. Does Long have the ability to ride someone else's fall too? Yashur took a deep breath and directed his attention to Wu Yin, who was drinking his black tea innocently as if it had nothing to do with him. Furthermore, his dragon riding technique can be said to be the best in the academy. His theoretical results are also the best in the entire year. He even managed to tame Guffrin, president. He is much more outstanding than me, so Rowan also needs to join the student council, and he has already agreed. Lebecca said slowly, "I feel that your ability is also extraordinary. Therefore, if possible, I hope that the student union can also recruit you." President Lebecca, please consider it carefully," Lebecca said with a solemn expression, causing Yashio to hesitate. Right at this moment, a long rhythmic cry suddenly rang out above the academy, startling all the students. Lebecca and Yashur stood up abruptly and looked out the window. "That's a second-level emergency alert." Lebecca went to the window and opened it. She looked out the window, and Yashur did the same. Wu Yin didn't know what's going on, and he kept asking questions. "A second-level emergency alert? What's that?" As the land of dragon breeding, Ansari will always encounter emergency situations. Based on the danger caused by these emergencies, the Academy has divided them into several levels of alerts. Lebecca continued to look out the window as she explained without turning her head. A second-level emergency alert means that the dragons in the Academy have suddenly lost control for some reason and left the dragon house. With that, Lebecca and Yashur turned their gazes to a certain corner below. There, a small pterosaur was wantonly running back and forth on the ground like an earth dragon, crashing into one tree after another. A few dragon servants from the dragon house rushed over in a panic and surrounded the pterosaur with weapons that didn't deal much damage. Then, under the watchful eyes of everyone present, a figure charged straight towards the frenzied pterosaur and jumped onto its back. It was Sylvia. What is Her Highness doing? Yashur couldn't help but jump in fright when he saw this with his own eyes. That was to be expected. After all, apart from their master, dragons wouldn't allow anyone else to ride on their back. Only Wu Yin and Yashur were exceptions due to different reasons. As for Sylvia, she didn't have the ability to do so. Thus, the moment Sylvia jumped onto the pterosaur's back and hugged its neck, the pterosaur began to shake its body even more violently. Sylvia could only hold on with all her might, but she wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. And because of Sylvia's actions, Longding was at a loss for what to do and panicked. That idiot! Wu Yin didn't care about Sylvia's identity as he cursed out loud. He jumped out of the window and charged towards pterosaur and Sylvia. Roan. Yashur was shocked to see Wu Yin jump out of the window. Lebecca watched closely as Wu Yin charged out, a strange look of anticipation in her eyes. Let me see more of your talents. Calm down. On the other side, Sylvia hugged the pterosaur's neck with all her might while suppressing the fear in her heart. The strength in her body was gradually dissipating. Competing with a dragon in terms of physical strength was undoubtedly a foolish thing to do. But Sylvia had done it. Even if she didn't regret it, she couldn't help but feel fear. It was a mistake, and the pterosaur had flung Sylvia out of the window. Chapter 1296. The scene of the sky and earth spinning was imprinted into Sylvia's eyes. When her body was also spinning in the air, Sylvia's screams also resounded through the sky. It was clearly a young pterosaur that hadn't even grown its wings yet and couldn't fly. However, Sylvia's voluptuous body was thrown high into the sky by the other party's fling, and she flew out fiercely like trash. In such a position, if she were to land on the ground uncontrollably, then Sylvia's slender body would definitely be severely injured from the impact of the landing. It might even endanger her life. Understanding this, the draconic guards were all shocked. They also let out sharp screams that echoed through the sky along with Sylvia's screams. Just as Sylvia was about to fall to the ground and become the victim of this accident, a figure suddenly charged down from the sky, leaving behind afterimages as it streaked across the sky. It was extremely fast and arrived at a certain location in the blink of an eye. Sylvia's body also flew towards the figure and was picked up by the waist. Then, the figure lightly landed on the ground as if it was weightless. Sylvia, who had closed her eyes and was about to endure the pain of landing, slowly opened her eyes with lingering fear. A face close to her entered her field of vision. Her expression froze in place. Seeing Sylvia open her eyes, Wu Yin coldly snorted and put her on the ground. I'll teach you a lesson later. After saying that, Wu Yin stomped on the ground and flew in front of the pterosaur. He then jumped high into the air and landed heavily with a sharp explosion. Below him was the berserk pterosaur. Boom! Woo! A muffled sound rang out. The berserk pterosaur felt as if a heavy mountain had smashed down on its back. It almost hit the pterosaur. The pterosaur thought that someone had overestimated themselves and rode on its back. It was about to explode when a cold voice seemed to freeze the air and entered its heart. Don't mess around. Don't blame me for being merciless. As these cold words were spoken, a wave of pressure from a higher existence pressed down on the pterosaur from above. This caused the pterosaur's body to tremble, and the madness in its heart instantly collapsed. Woo! The pterosaur, which was as crazy as a beast a second ago, let out a soft moan as if it was begging for mercy. At this moment, he suddenly became like a puppy. He opened his teary eyes and laid on the ground, not daring to act rashly anymore. For it, who was still young and had yet to grow, Wu Yan's pressure was really a burden. Therefore, it had no choice but to be obedient. Stop. It stopped. The group of draconians who witnessed this scene stared blankly at Wu Yan, who was standing on the back of the pterosaur. Then, as if they had thought of something, they exclaimed in surprise. He's Luoong? Is it Randall? Really, that young rider, the Protoss. No wonder he could subdue the pterosaur so easily. Too powerful. The excited cheers of the dragon subordinates were all heard by Sylvia, making Sylvia feel a little uncomfortable. Why can't I do it? With that thought, Sylvia's eyes welled up with tears. She turned around and wanted to leave the scene. However, as soon as Sylvia turned around, a hand grabbed her and pulled her back. Then slap. A crisp sound echoed in the air. Sylvia was stunned. It wasn't just Sylvia. The draconians, Lebecca and Yashur, who were standing by the window of the student council office, as well as the scattered staff who heard the alarm and rushed over, were all stunned. Sylvia stared blankly at Wu Yan, who was standing in front of her with his hand in the air. She reflexively touched her cheek with her hand. The next moment, a strange, stinging sensation spread to her nerves. She finally realized she was just slapped by Wu Yan. You? Sylvia stared in disbelief at Wu Yan, who casually withdrew his hand as if nothing had happened. She rubbed her cheek and muttered in confusion. You slapped me? Yes, I slapped you. Wu Yin admitted frankly and looked at Sylvia with a smile. However, there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. It was chilling. What? Your Highness, are you going to punish me? Sylvia yelled at Wu Yin in a fit of rage when she heard that. What right do you have to hit me? Just because you have a disgusting head. Wu Yin didn't care about Sylvia's identity as princess at all. He didn't care about the crowd's stunned expressions. Do you know that you almost died just now? What does my death have to do with you? Sylvia's anger, resentment, and all other emotions exploded with Wu Yan's slap. What is your relationship with me? Do I need to be slapped because I'm an eyesore to you? That's right. You have nothing to do with me. So, if you want to die, please find a place with no one around and die on your own. Wu Yin laughed coldly. Let's see if the fourth princess of the Night Kingdom of Lorea overestimated herself and fell to her death while riding another dragon sounds better, or the fourth princess of the Night Kingdom of Lorea committed suicide because she lost to someone else and couldn't get first place sounds better. You. Sylvia's face turned ghastly pale. What? Not saying anything? Wu Yin didn't show any mercy as he looked at Sylvia's pale face. Risking your life to challenge another dragon, isn't it because you don't have the ability that others have, so you feel indignant, unwilling to admit defeat, and unwilling to see it happen? That's why your IQ dropped. You thought that if others could do it, you could also do it, so you jumped over. Isn't that right? You don't understand how I feel at all. With a pale face, Sylvia tried her best to hold back her tears as she shouted at Wu Yin. However, Wu Yin responded coldly. Indeed, I don't understand how you feel, nor do I understand what kind of obsession you have in your heart. However, I can't be like you and watch my friend die with a cold face. Friend? Sylvia was stunned. Riding another dragon won't bring you any pleasure, nor will it make you stronger. Wu Yin pointed at the pterosaur that just went berserk. If riding that little fellow can satisfy you, then I definitely won't stop you. Sylvia was speechless at Wu Yin. No matter what kind of dragon you ride, it won't bring you as much joy as watching your own dragon grow. Don't you understand? Wu Yin glanced at Sylvia before turning around. If you really want to become stronger, then Lancelot is the only dragon in your eyes. He is the one that you can rely on to become stronger. On the other hand, if what you mean by becoming stronger is nothing more than neglecting the essentials and focusing on trifles to prove that you have the talent that others have that you can have as well, then I advise you to give up early and obediently be a princess. With that, Wu Yin didn't look at Sylvia anymore and left the scene. Sylvia still stood there, covering her face as she looked at Wu Yan's back. She didn't say anything for a long time. In the student council office, Yashur looked at Wu Yin dumbly as he left, full of admiration. He's really strong. Lebecca couldn't help but smile. Her smile was strangely beautiful. After leaving everyone's sight, Wu Yin stopped and sighed. I know you're here, Corset. I'm afraid you're the only one in the academy who slapped Her Highness, Lord Roland, behind a tree on the side. Kursel walked out with a bitter smile. After being slapped by you, Her Highness will be disappointed for a long time. Her head is as hard as an ox's. Wu Yin snapped at Corset. So please keep an eye on her. Don't let her go down a dead end. Thank you for your concern, Lord Roland. I'll accept it on behalf of Her Royal Highness. Corset smiled, lifted her skirt, and bowed. Please continue to teach Her Highness from now on, Lord Roland. With that, Cosette turned around and ran in the direction of Sylvia, causing Wu Yin to shout in ridicule. Remember to give her benefits next time. Being a maid is a benefit in itself. With these words, Cosette disappeared from the scene. Chapter 1297. Ansari Dragon Riding Academy, 7th Dragon House. In the dragon room that belonged to Lancelot, covered in silver-white fur, was lying on the floor with his mouth wide open as he munched on an extra-large portion of beef placed in front of him. Judging from the speed at which he ate and the faint, pleasant dragon roar, it was obvious that he was in a good mood. Sylvia, in her uniform, stood beside Lancelot, wiping its body as she watched it happily eat, but her heart was filled with bitterness. Lancelot wasn't a particularly gluttonous dragon. He rarely displayed a particularly good mood because he was able to eat good food. As Lancelot's master, Sylvia couldn't be more clear about this. However, recently, Lancelot had been in a particularly good mood every time he ate. When it was time to eat, he seemed particularly eager and impatient. When it was time to eat, he was in a very good mood. Due to his joyful mood, his performance was much better than usual when he practiced his dragon riding skills with Sylvia. All of this was due to the food that Lancelot loved so much. And this food was personally prepared by Wu Yan. Ever since he tasted Wu Yan's food, Lancelot completely fell in love with Wu Yan's cooking and displayed an unprecedented desire to pursue it. Now, Lancelot would leave the Seven Dragons' house almost every day when it was time to eat. When he returned, there would be an extra portion of delicious food in his mouth. After returning to his own dragon room, he would happily eat. Long Ding of the Seventh Dragon House didn't know where Lancelot went after leaving the Seventh Dragon House without permission or where the food came from. However, Lancelot didn't cause any trouble when he left. They were happy to be idle and let it go. Only Sylvia knew that ever since Lancelot tasted Wu Yan's food for the first time, every time he left the dragon house without permission, it was to look for Wu Yan. The food he brought back was also made by Wu Yan. It wasn't just Lancelot. Even Guffrin, who was tamed by Wu Yan, was the same. When it was time to eat, he would leave the dragon house without permission and look for Wu Yan to ask for food. In other words, almost 50% of Lancelot's growth during this period was due to Wu Yan's food. Sylvia's mood darkened when she thought of this. Herself, I lost to him again in another aspect. On top of that, even his fall had received his care. He had contributed to his growth as well. He was truly outstanding. Compared to him, she really was like a child. She recalled how she recklessly challenged a berserk dragon to prove that she had the ability to ride another fall and was slapped by Wu Yan. Sylvia subconsciously touched her face. It was as if it was still aching. Sylvia knew that she didn't have any talent. It wasn't that she didn't have the talent to ride another fall. It was that she didn't even have the talent to become a dragon nurturer. Loriamin had a rule that all citizens of 7 years old must go to a Bion forest to undergo the youngling ritual and have the dragon mother appraise them to see if they had the talent to become a dragon nurturer. If they did, they would receive the dragon mother's nursery and receive the star carving. They would become a dragon nurturer. If they didn't, the dragon mother wouldn't even appear in front of them, and they could only leave dejectedly. Logically speaking, Sylvia, who obtained Lancelot, should have the talent to become a dragon nurturer. However, only Sylvia knew that during the youngling ritual when she was 7 years old, she didn't get the chance to become a dragon nurturer. In fact, she didn't get chosen. The only reason she was able to obtain Lancelot and become a dragon nurturer was because someone had given her a hand. Sylvia couldn't help but recall the conversation she had with him when she was 7 years old. Why do you want to become a dragon nurturer so badly? Woo. Because I must have my own fall. Why? Because I want to become a great knight. Knight. But I didn't get chosen. The dragon mother didn't give me her nursery. I failed to live up to my royal father and royal sister's expectations. I can't become a great knight. Woo. Sigh. All right, stop crying. Woo. All right. Stop crying. Didn't you want to fall? I'll give you one, all right. Gee, give me one. In the dimly lit forest, he pressed a mysterious ball of light into the body of the 7-year-old Sylvia. In that instant, Sylvia felt that some sort of change seemed to have occurred in her body. Then, a star carving appeared on Sylvia's body. I have fall now. Amen. I've given you fall. So stop crying, okay? But, is this okay? Well, it's useless to give it to me. I don't really need it anyway. If you need it, I'll give it to you. All right, I'm leaving. Remember, stop crying. Wait. Big brother. What's your name? Me? My name is Wu Yan. Sylvia muttered subconsciously, calling out that name that was etched in her heart. Then, she thought of her own performance and her bright and beautiful eyes were filled with heart-wrenching gloom. She even began to mock herself. If Big Brother sees me now, he'll be very disappointed, right? As Sylvia said that, she even had an extreme thought. If he had entrusted Lancelot to someone else, then Lancelot would be better than staying by her side, right? Perhaps he might even be stronger than when he was by my side. That might not necessarily be the case. After all, she didn't have the talent to be a dragon nurturer, did she? Just as that thought rose in her mind, a familiar voice that was also etched in her heart coldly echoed in Sylvia's heart. No matter what kind of dragon you ride, it won't be as joyful as watching your own dragon grow. Don't you understand? If you really want to become stronger, then Lancelot is the only dragon in your eyes. He's the one you need to become stronger. And if what you mean by becoming stronger is nothing more than neglecting the essentials and focusing on trifles to prove that you have the talent that others have that you can have as well, then I advise you to give up early and just be a princess obediently. The cold voice was like a bucket of cold water that poured over Sylvia's heart. She, who had almost gone to the extreme, suddenly came back to her senses. No, I can't think that way. Sylvia hurriedly shook her head and took a deep breath to get rid of the distracting thoughts in her mind. He's right. I only need Lancelot. I only need Lancelot in my eyes. He's the one I need to become stronger, not to prove that I have the talent to be a dragon nurturer. Become stronger. I have to become stronger. Sylvia's dim eyes lit up as she clenched her fists tightly. To not let down Big Brother who entrusted Lancelot to me. I have to become stronger. I have to become stronger. Kaboom! Just as Sylvia's fighting spirit was reignited, a thunderous boom came from the sky outside. The sudden sound of thunder caused Sylvia's face to turn pale with fright. Her awe-inspiring image was shattered, and she covered her ears like a timid little girl, trembling as she squatted down. Although it was hard to imagine, the famous Princess Blue Ice was indeed afraid of thunder. Roar! While Sylvia crouched down in fear, Lancelot stood up abruptly and let out a huge roar filled with enmity towards the window. It was as if he had seen a parasite. It was only then that Sylvia, who was trembling as she lifted her head to look outside the window, realized that the clear sky outside was now covered in a thick layer of ominous dark clouds. It was pitch black and hard to imagine. What is that? Looking at the sky covered by ominous dark clouds and the sticky feeling of discomfort that permeated the air like a rotten swamp, Sylvia's icy blue eyes trembled violently, and a trace of unease surfaced in her heart. Chapter 1298. The originally clear sky was instantly covered by a thick layer of dark clouds like a lake that had been filled with dirty water. The dark clouds stirred into a black whirlpool that slowly rotated. Inside, traces of red lightning surged back and forth, bringing with them frequent rumbles of thunder. In Apollo's abode, Wu Yin was reading a few scattered legends about dragons similar to the sacred dragon emperor that Cosette brought him. His hand that was flipping through the book suddenly paused, and he looked out the window, looking at the whirlpool of dark clouds and flashing red lightning. Wu Yan's frown deepened, and he stood up from his bed. Something's not right. Wu Yan wasn't the only one with such thoughts. The strongest student council president of the Ansari Academy also had the same thought. The proof was Guffrin's enormous body suddenly soared into the sky under Wu Yan's gaze and stopped above the academy. Leibecca in her uniform was standing on a rotating magic formation. Her emerald eyes first glanced at the ominous clouds in the sky before looking in Wu Yan's direction. Roland. Leibecca raised her voice and shouted at Wu Yan as if she already knew that he would be standing by the window in his room. You feel it too, Leibecca. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes. He nodded and he replied, That's definitely not natural. Someone is messing with us. I think so too. Leibecca raised her head, her beautiful face suddenly becoming serious. She closed her eyes. Leibecca opened her red lips and slowly spoke. Her solemn voice echoed in the sky. In Leibecca's name, I command in the name of Randall. Present the holy knight armor you forged to me. Roar! As Lebecca's solemn voice echoed, a red light flashed in Guffrin's eyes. He opened his mouth and roared. Two magic arrays less than 10 centimeters apart rippled out from Guffrin's body and enveloped Lebecca, as if they were rising into the sky. The magic formations gradually slid over Lebecca's voluptuous body, causing her to emit an intense light. Within the light, two ripples appeared. The magic formations slid over Lebecca's body and had the opposite effect. The other dissolved all of Lebecca's clothes into light. The other condensed into a set of armor that looked like a tight suit and covered her body. By the time the light dissipated, a set of sacred and alluring skin-tight armor had replaced Lebecca's original clothes, becoming her strongest weapon. Lebecca? Randall, level 70. Guffrin, level 70. Lebecca, who had instantly transformed into a Valkyrie. He could clearly feel the sharp aura and surging mana fluctuations coming from her body. She was just an ordinary person a second ago. Wu Yan's lips slowly curled up. I see. So this is the magic equipment of this world's sacred knight armor. Rune. Lebecca, who had no idea Wu Yan was observing her sacred knight armor, crouched down and grabbed Guffrin's fur. She called out without turning her head. I'll go over first. If you want to come over, go to the dragon house and borrow a dragon. I have a feeling things aren't as simple as they seem. After saying that, Lebecca rode Guffrin and turned into a red blur. She flew toward the center of the whirlpool of dark clouds. Borrow a dragon? Wu Yan scratched his cheeks. He had a helpless expression on his face. Looks like Lebecca has subconsciously forgotten about my own fall. But that's fine too. A black and white dragon isn't suitable for an appearance here. After saying that, Wu Yan jumped out of the window and landed on the ground. He charged forward. The strongest sacred dragon in the academy was Guffrin. No one could find an existence comparable to Guffrin. However, Guffrin wasn't the only sacred dragon in the academy. There were 4 other sacred dragons. Wu Yan didn't plan on using his familiar to impersonate Fall in a situation like this. But if he wants to borrow a dragon, he's going to borrow as strong a dragon as he can. So, he set his sights on the other sacred dragons. The 7th Dragon House was a place provided by the Ansari Academy for sacred dragons to rest. Wu Yan's target was the 7th Dragon House. When Wu Yan arrived at the 7th Dragon House, there was already someone there. Sylvia? Wu Yan called out in surprise when he saw Sylvia holding Lancelot's reins at the entrance of the 7th Dragon House. Rune. Sylvia, who was observing the sky with a serious expression, followed the sound, and when she saw Wu Yan standing there with an astonished expression, her serious expression crumbled and turned into an unnatural one. Wu Yan had just taught her a lesson and slapped her in the face. Now that she saw Wu Yan, she felt awkward. Not just Sylvia, even Wu Yan's expression became a bit resentful. He opened his mouth and was about to say something when his expression changed. He abruptly lifted his head and looked at the horizon. Under Wu Yan and Sylvia's watchful eyes, a magic formation of the same size as the dark cloud vortex appeared without any warning and covered the dark clouds. Shortly after, a gigantic dragon twice the size of Guffrin, with dark gray fur and bulging muscles, with a decaying aura, emerged from the magic circle and descended from the sky. Roar! A frightening roar that shook one's heart echoed through the pitch-black sky like a demon. It turned into sound waves that reverberated in the air. It even reached the ears of Wu Yan and Sylvia, who were looking up from the academy. Sylvia looked at the naked, giant dragon in disbelief. She couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Her delicate body trembled and her eyes were filled with fear. What is that? TCH. Wu Yan curled his lips and turned to look at Sylvia. Sylvia, ride Lancelot and bring me there. Wah! Sylvia's panic turned into fear when she heard Wu Yan's words. She shook her head with all her might without thinking. No, I don't want to. Huh? Wu Yan didn't expect to receive such an answer. He paused and became angry. Why? That kind of monster. Sylvia's shoulders trembled, the fear in her heart written all over her face. I don't want to go near it. Wu Yin clenched his fists. His eyes flashed with a cold light. I thought you were just a little stubborn. I didn't expect you to be a coward who doesn't even dare to face the enemy. It's a sin for the Lorium royal family to have a princess like you. Well, what did you say? Sylvia's body trembled. She was stunned on the spot. That dragon is clearly very dangerous to Ansari City. It's even destroying it. Wu Yin looked at the giant dragon that was spitting dragon breath to destroy Ansari City. His mocking voice reverberated towards Sylvia. The citizens of Ansari City are facing danger. A princess like you actually doesn't care about the safety of your own country's citizens. You plan to hide here like a coward. What an eye-opener. I. Sylvia's body trembled again and again. Her pretty face was as white as paper. Forget it. It's the same if I go alone. Wu Yin glanced at Sylvia and walked to Lancelot's side. Lend Lancelot to me. Lend Lancelot? Sylvia was stunned again. She quickly shook her head. No. How can Lancelot fight that kind of monster? He can't even compare to it in terms of size. Huh? Wu Yin laughed. His laughter was unusually sarcastic. You want to impose your own incompetence on your foe? You're really something, aren't you? No. It's not like that. Aren't you the one who knows Lancelot the best? Wu Yin coldly interrupted. In your heart, is Lancelot a holy dragon that can't even defeat that disgusting reptile? Seeing Sylvia's confused look, Wu Yin sighed. He turned around and patted Lancelot's head. Lancelot, since that's the case, let us show your owner just how strong you are. Roar. Lancelot roared without hesitation and obediently laid down in front of Wu Yin. Lancelot. Sylvia was stunned when she saw Lancelot's expression of submission. Now is not the time for you to be in a daze. Wu Yin grabbed Sylvia by the waist and jumped on Lancelot's back amid Sylvia's shriek of surprise. Come and see for yourself. See how strong Lancelot is. Roar. Lancelot let out a hot-blooded dragon roar. He kicked his four limbs and soared into the sky with a muffled sound. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.